Chapter 422. Young Feng said with a smile, "You're right. I have my eye on the East Sea's financial resources. Therefore, you pirate kings are really an eyesore. You're all going to die." Lionel's eyes flickered and he uttered, "You want to eradicate us? Are you sure? Your Majesty, we 3 pirate kings know 2 pirate kings have powerful forces supporting us from behind. The dragon skeleton pirates have the support of the country of dragons. If you wipe us out, you'll be making an enemy of the country of dragons. There are countless dragons in the country of dragons, and their strength is beyond your imagination. It's not too late for you to leave now." Young Feng sneered, "You talk too much nonsense. Lionel, do it. Let me see how strong the dragon skeleton pirate king who runs amok in the East Sea is." "Are you sure you don't want to think about it? My father is the ancient golden dragon Robertini. He possesses frightening strength that can rival gods." A cold light flashed in Lionel's eyes. In an instant 2 dragon horns grew out of his head, and the power of the dragon permeated his body. Suddenly he unleashed the drawing technique, the dragon slash, which he had never lost in the East Sea for decades. A copious amount of dragon chi revolved around the legend-ranked magic blade, which, as if forming a roaring dragon, wrapped around the legend-ranked magic blade and slashed towards Yang Feng with frightening fluctuations capable of splitting the scales of Starry Sky Warlock-ranked dragons. The dragon slash was the crystallization of Lionel's decades of cultivation. Within 10 meters of it, even a legend wizard would be slain in an instant. Faced with the fearsome blade strike, Yang Feng extended his index finger and tapped the sky splitter blade with a seemingly slow but actually fast motion. Ding! Along with a crisp sound under everyone's shocked gazes, the space splitter blade was flicked away by Yang Feng's finger. Lionel was also sent flying by himself. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated a dozen-plus meters, his eyes filled with shock. Yang Feng lowered his head slightly and glanced at his index finger, only to see that there was only a white mark on it. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly, revealing a smile. The strongest warlock path is indeed worthy of the title of strongest. The primal chaos imperishable body coupled with the power of the semi-plane is really frighteningly powerful. Lionel, since I've taken your attack, I'll give it to you. Come and take a punch from me. Yang Feng barked, his figure shook, and he appeared in front of Lionel in a flash. Before Lionel could react, he punched Leo Bell in the abdomen. With a loud bang, the terrifying power instantly pierced through Leo Bell, and he exploded into a mist of blood that scattered throughout the Dragon Bones warship. When the pirates saw this scene, their limbs turned cold, and they were filled with fear. Yang Feng waved his hand, and a spatial gate suddenly appeared. A huge space door suddenly appeared on the Black Steel warship. Arlette and the naval soldiers who were ready for boarding quickly passed through the portal and arrived on the Dragon Bones warship. Arlette pointed her legendary spear at the pirates and shouted, "For His Majesty, kill them all! For His Majesty!" The dragonborn naval soldiers roared loudly and followed behind Arlette as they charged at the pirates. Yang Feng walked towards a seat specially set up on the Dragon Bones warship. "Kill him! Everyone, let's go together and kill him. Only then will we have a way out." The eyes of the pirates shimmered fiercely, and they rushed towards Yang Feng one after another. After being forced into a desperate situation, the pirates revealed their ferocious nature. As if he didn't see the ferocious pirates, when the more than 100 pirates rushed to his side, strange spatial distortions suddenly appeared. In an instant, the bodies of the more than 100 pirates were divided into strange spaces. In the next moment, a copious amount of blood burst out of the bodies of the pirates, looking like bewitching and strange flowers of blood. Seeing this scene, fear flashed in the eyes of the pirates, and they didn't dare to approach Yang Feng. Step by step, Yang Feng walked to the seat placed on the dais, reclined on a chair, held a large caliber hand cannon in his hand, and looked down like a god overlooking the secular world. Bang! A pirate with superb martial skills had just deflected the sword of a dragonborn and was about to kill the dragonborn with a saber strike, when a gunshot rang out, and the pirate's head burst open, blood splattering everywhere. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The dragonborn naval soldier looked at Yang Feng sitting on the dais with excitement in his eyes. He roared, picked up the sword that was deflected, and continued to attack the pirates. Every time the dragonborn naval soldiers faced a crisis, a gunshot would ring out, and the head of a pirate would explode. Under such circumstances, the morale of the pirates was extremely low. In particular, Arlette was extremely powerful. In the wake of her silver dragon spear, pirates were easily pierced and cut apart. No one could withstand a blow from her. "I surrender! I surrender!" The pirates only lasted for a short while in this desperate battle before kneeling down and surrendering. The most unruly pirates jumped from the Dragonbones warship into the sea. Not long after the Dragonbones warship was occupied, it turned around and aimed at another warship on Dragonbones Island. The dragonhead cannon flashed, and a beam of light descended from the sky and blasted the warship. Boom! Along with a blare, the beam of light pierced through the warship, shook slightly, and then sank to the bottom of the sea. Seeing the Dragonbones warship change sides, the pirates on the Dragonbones Island revealed looks of despair in their eyes, and they fled and hid on the Dragonbones Island. In the sky, Oben completely suppressed Roik, riddling the silver dragon Roik with wounds. When the silver dragon Roik saw the Dragonbones warship change sides, he knew that the situation was anything but reassuring. He silently recited an incantation, and a spatial fluctuation enveloped him in an attempt to use spatial spells to escape. "You want to use spatial spells in front of me? You're overestimating yourself." The spatial fluctuation had just enveloped the silver dragon Roik, when it strangely disappeared. Yang Feng's voice sounded beside Roik. When Roik turned his head, he saw that Yang Feng had already appeared in front of him. Yang Feng smiled and slammed a fist into Roik's neck. A frightening power erupted in a flash, and Roik's neck was blasted to pieces. The dragon head separated from the body, and the dragon fell from the sky. When the black dragon Oben saw this scene, his eyes filled with fear. So strong! What a terrifying power! He's just a great warlock. How can he have such frightening power? The black dragon Oben was a demigod-ranked dragon. Even if he used all his dragon force and slammed a blow into Roik's neck with all his might, he still wouldn't be able to smash Roik's neck. The frightening power displayed by Yang Feng was far beyond the black dragon Oben's imagination. Yang Feng glanced at Oben and said lightly, "Oben, you and Arlette go and arrest those scum pirates and put them on trial. Those guilty of the most heinous crimes will be hanged, while those guilty of lesser crimes will be spared." Oben responded even more respectfully, "Yes, Your Majesty." With that, Oben's figure fluttered, and he changed back into his human form and flew towards the Dragonbones Island. One after another, the Black Dragon Country's warships landed on Dragonbones Island. Countless naval soldiers rushed towards the island. In front of the demigod-ranked Black Dragon Oben and the legend-ranked Dragonborn expert Arlette, the pirates of the Dragonbones Island couldn't withstand a single blow. They were found in the tunnels, and were either killed or surrendered. Yang Feng rescued 20,000 women and children, who were plundered by the dragon skeleton pirates from the Dragonbones Island. The three pirate kings not only plundered merchant ships in the sea, but also landed on land from time to plunder the women and children of coastal cities to vent their desires. They were scum, so Yang Feng didn't feel any pressure killing them. After a simple trial, 10,000 of the surrendered pirates on the island were directly hanged, while the remaining 5,000 pirates who had committed lesser crimes were disorganized and temporarily reduced to slaves to see what would happen in the future. A day later, in the deepest secret chamber of the Dragonbones Island City Master's mansion, Yang Feng pushed open the door of the secret chamber and saw gold coins and gems piled up inside, emitting brilliant light. The value of the gold coins and gems in the secret chamber alone was tens of millions of gold coins. Yang Feng glanced at the secret chamber with a tranquil look in his eyes, then went to the deepest part of the secret chamber. On an ordinary wall without any decorations, he silently recited an incantation and pressed with his hand. The wall twisted and eventually broke open, revealing a pitch-black passageway. Yang Feng walked into the pitch-black passageway. When he reached the end of the passageway, he saw a huge bronze gate appear in front of him. Yang Feng flicked his wrist, and a legend-rank sword suddenly shot out. With a flash of sword light, the bronze gate fell apart and scattered on the ground. As soon as the bronze door shattered, waves of extremely dazzling light surged out from within the bronze door, and it illuminated the dim passageway to the point it was extremely bright. As soon as Yang Feng entered, he saw mountains of gold, silver and jewel, as well as chests of precious minerals, magic stones, magic ores, precious magic plants, and various other treasures laid out in the cave. If all the treasures in the cave were sold, it wouldn't be strange to sell them for 10 billion gold coins. Chapter 423. Not bad, the three pirate lords are really rich. With a faint smile on his face, Yang Feng's eyes roamed around the treasury. Finally, with a look of ecstasy on his face, he came to a pile of ores and picked them up. Yang Feng picked up the pile of ores, and his eyes flashed with ecstasy. This is top-notch inert atlam stone. Haha, that's great. This inert atlam stone is enough to make a semi-top-notch warp gate. At present, Yang Feng already had the level 2 mobile fortified stronghold, which could synthesize the lowest grade inert atlam stone to make the lowest grade warp gates. At present, he couldn't synthesize the top-notch inert atlam stone. Now, the top-notch inert atlam stone he obtained from the treasury was enough to increase the number of top-notch warp gates in Yang Feng's possession from 4 to 5. Each additional top-notch warp gate meant that Yang Feng could control an additional plane and obtain more resources. At the same time, he could make more choices. At present, Yang Feng had 4 top-notch warp gates in his possession. They were in the Feisua Plains Desolate Islands, the Tarandit Subcontinent's underground base, and the Astral Boundaries Planar Star River. Once the 5th top-grade warp gate is created, Yang Feng will be able to freely travel between more planes. Yang Feng looked at the inert atlam stone, and the corners of his mouth rose into a smile. The Feisua plane is one of the 36 primary material planes for it to have so many top-notch inert atlam stone. In other words, as long as I get a few more treasuries, I may be able to have a dozen more top-notch warp gates. If I can put one on each of the 36 primary material planes, that would be great. Since top-notch inert atlam stone could be found on the Feisua plane, then the amount of inert atlam stone on this plane was definitely not small. It wasn't impossible for Yang Feng to get his hands on top-notch inert atlam stone. Ghost Skull Island, in the castle where the Black Skeleton Pirate Lord lived. The Black Skeleton Pirate Lord Column said with a gloomy expression, "Lionel was killed. Are you sure?" In front of Column sat a beautiful Naga high priest. Her upper body was that of a beautiful human, but her lower body was that of a snake. She said, "This is an oracle from the great Naga high god. Do you want to question the authenticity of the great god's oracle?" Column's heart trembled as he hurriedly replied, "I wouldn't dare. I'm completely devoted to the great Naga goddess, and I'm willing to sacrifice everything for her. How could he question the divine decree of the great god? I'll follow your orders, great priest, and make the arrangements so that everyone is on high alert." Rumble. Boom. Before Column could finish his words, a series of earth-shaking explosions resounded on Ghost Skull Island. The entire castle was shaken. Column was shocked. "What's going on?" A pirate leader rushed to Column's side and shouted, Your Majesty, not good. The attack was coming. The Dragon Skeleton Pirates had arrived. Those bastards from the Dragon Skeleton Pirates had arrived." Column grabbed the collar of the pirate leader and pulled him up from the ground. With a ferocious look on his face, he roared, "Dragon Skeleton Pirates! You idiot! Calm down and speak properly. Why did you say that the Dragon Skeleton Pirates had arrived?" The pirate leader screamed, "Dragon Bones warship! There's a Dragon Bones warship in that fleet." The 3 legendary warships were the symbols of the 3 pirate lords of the East Sea. When the pirate leader saw the Dragon Bones warship, it was normal for him to think that the Dragon Skeleton Pirates had arrived. Column roared with a gloomy face, "Did that fleet fly the flag of the Dragon Skeleton Pirates?" The pirate leader quickly replied, "No, they flew the flag of a black dragon." Column's face was gloomy, and his eyes flashed with wisdom as he said solemnly, "It seems that it's as you said, great priest, the Dragon Skeleton Pirates had been swallowed up. Even the legendary warship Dragon Bones warship had fallen into their hands. The Dragon Skeleton Pirates and our pirate groups are about the same in terms of strength. Since that fleet was able to swallow the Dragon Skeleton Pirates, our Black Skeleton Pirates won't be able to resist them. Great priest, please take action. Otherwise, I can only order my brothers to split up and flee." Although Column looked like an ordinary pirate with muscles all over his head, looking like a bear, he was very clear-minded. But in fact his mind was very clear, and he was extremely cunning. Based on the various pieces of information, he judged that he was definitely not a match for Yang Feng's fleet, and made the decision to have his subordinates flee in different directions. He didn't even want the treasures hidden on the Ghost Skeleton Island. The Naga Great Priest said calmly, "Got it. We'll take action. In the sea, no one dares to ignore us Nagas." As soon as Kalam and the Naga Great Priest walked out of the castle, they saw the legendary warship Black Steel Warship in the distance shoot countless beams and shells bombarding the warships of the Black Skeleton Pirates. Warships of the Black Skeleton Pirates sank into the sea one after another. The Dragon Bones warship flapped its wings and flew into the air, into the midst of the warships of the Black Skeleton Pirates, and then the huge dragon head bit down and tore a warship in half, sinking it into the sea. The Dragon Bones warship, which seemed to have turned into a huge bone dragon, dropped from the sky and pounced at the warships. Every time it pounced, a warship would sink. The Black Skeleton Pirates madly rushed towards the warships at the port. But they had just boarded a warship when it was destroyed. There was no hope for them to fight. Kalam's face became extremely unsightly, and he looked at the Black Steel warship with apprehension in his eyes. He had seen the strength of the Black Steel warship before. After being modified by Yang Feng, the Black Steel warship was more than 100 times stronger than before. Whether in terms of firepower, range, or accuracy, the Black Steel warship modified by Yang Feng far surpassed the original Black Steel warship by more than a generation. After being modified by Yang Feng, the Black Steel warship could easily beat 10 original Black Steel warships. This was the huge gap in technology. The Naga Great Priest silently recited an incantation and pointed with her finger in midair. Blue divine light condensed in midair and formed a 20-meter-tall Naga Great Priest projection constructed from water elemental particles. The Naga Great Priest projection suspended in midair said solemnly, "I am the Naga Great Priest of the Black Skeleton Island, Kuna. Please have a chat with me, Your Majesty the Black Dragon Country." Sitting on the Black Steel warship, Yang Feng looked at the Naga Great Priest projection with disdain in his eyes, smiled coldly, and waved his hand. Arlette stepped forward and said loudly, "I am the Black Dragon Country's Saintess Arlette. If you have something to say it to me. Great Priest Kuna." Kuna's gaze swept past Arlette, and her beautiful eyes flashed with anger. She was a great priest of the Naga race, and her status was extremely lofty. Even the human coastal states had to act according to her wishes. If she went to the human coastal states, the kings of the human coastal states would be respectful to her. Now that Yang Feng was sitting on the Black Steel warship, yet he only let Arlette talk to her, she felt humiliated. Kuna spoke haughtily and threateningly. "The Black Skeleton Island is the territory of the Naga race. Please stop attacking the Black Skeleton Island immediately. Otherwise, you will be an enemy of the Naga race and the billions of merfolk in the East Sea. If you leave now and compensate us for our losses, then I can treat today's matter as if it never happened." Arlette frowned slightly and turned to look at Yang Feng. In the East Sea, the most powerful forces were not the 3 human pirate groups, but the merfolk with countless people living in the East Sea. Any human ship that wanted to pass through the sea had to offer sacrifices to the merfolk. If it wasn't for the fact that the merfolk gods were wary of the human gods, it would be impossible for human ships to sail on the sea. Although the dragonborn powerhouses of the desolate islands were very powerful, but they could not contend against the merfolk of the East Sea. The gazes of the dragonborn on the warship focused on Yang Feng, full of worship and expectation. These days Yang Feng led them to crush the Dragon Skeleton Pirate King, and now he was about to destroy the forces of the Black Skeleton Pirate King. On the verge of dominating the East Sea, the dragonborn worshipped Yang Feng very much, and treated his orders as if they were divine. "I am full of respect for the merfolk gods, and have no intention of being hostile to the merfolk." Yang Feng glanced at Kuna, and his eyes flickered with cold killing intent, and he said overbearingly, "However, I want the East Sea. Anyone who stands in my way is my enemy. You Nagas, leave the Black Skeleton Island immediately, and I can treat it as if nothing happened. Otherwise you Nagas, as well as all the merfolk in the East Sea, are my enemies and will be wiped out one by one." Kuna's pretty face changed, and she took a deep look at Yang Feng, and her eyes filled with frigid killing intent. "You? Very well. Your Majesty the Emperor of the Black Dragon Country, I will bring your words to our Naga Empress. Only destruction awaits your black dragon country. Let's go. Her face ashen, Kuna ordered coldly. The Naga warriors in the temple on the Black Skeleton Island immediately followed Kuna and jumped into the sea. Colum was very cunning. He didn't even take the legendary warship Ghost Ship, and instead took dozens of his trusted aides to escape the Black Skeleton Island with Kuna. Chapter 424. After Colum and the Naga tribe warriors escaped from Black Skeleton Island was left without a leader and fell into chaos. As soon as Yang Feng's army landed on the Black Skeleton Island, the pirates surrendered one after another. The Black Dragon country rescued more than 30,000 women and children from the Black Skeleton Island. After rummaging through the Black Skeleton Island, Yang Feng found treasures and cash worth more than 10 million gold coins. Obviously, the gold coins and various treasures that the Black Skeleton Pirate King had earned over the years were all offered to the Naga Sirens in order to gain their protection. Arlette pointed to the Naga temple and asked, "Your Majesty, what should we do with this temple?" Yang Feng looked at the Naga temple and couldn't help but frown. The Naga temple enshrined the goddess of Nagas, Daphne. She was an intermediate divine force rank god, a terrifying powerhouse on the same level as the fighting demonic sect's four great elders. If it wasn't for the planar tide, even with the agreement of the gods, Yang Feng wouldn't dare to offend such a powerful god. Yang Feng taking the Black Skeleton Island away from the Nagas was nothing in the eyes of the goddess of Nagas. However, if he dared to blaspheme the statue of the goddess of Nagas, Daphne, he would definitely make an irreconcilable enemy. Yang Feng pondered for a while and then said, "Pass down my order. No one is allowed to blaspheme the statue of the god inside. Arlette, I want you to keep an eye on this for me. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy." Arlette's heart shook slightly and she uttered, "Yes, Your Majesty." 50,000 meters under the sea in the East Sea, there was a city full of art that stretched as far as the eye could see. In the city there were giant spiral houses, coral mountains, and other buildings full of merfolk style and aura. On the streets there were Nagas with human bodies and snake tails, octopuses with octopus heads and human-like bodies, and other strange merfolk powerhouses. In the center of the city, there was a magnificent palace with an area of more than tens of thousands of hectares. It was covered by a powerful barrier, and it was extremely exquisite and luxurious. That palace was the East Seas Sea Monarch Palace. The East Seas Sea Monarch Palace had a powerful barrier that prevented seawater from invading. The East Seas Sea Monarch Palace was filled with fresh air and powerful mana creatures. Even humans could live freely and comfortably here. There was an ocean palace in each of the four seas. Each ocean palace was beautifully built and possessed great power. The four great ocean monarch palaces were the palaces where the four great ocean kings resided. In addition to the four great ocean monarch palaces, there was also an ocean monarch palace in the Western Sea that governed the four great ocean monarch palaces. It was different from the separation of church and state in humans. The Sea Clan was basically ruled by a combination of politics and religion. The Sea Emperor was not only the emperor of the Sea Clan, but also the pope appointed by the gods of the Sea God sect. The four Sea Kings were the four deputy pope of the Sea God sect. However, with the passage of time, apart from the West Sea Imperial Palace, which was still firmly under the control of the Sea Imperial Palace, the other three imperial palaces of the four seas all paid lip service to the Sea Imperial Palace. Kuna's eyes flashed with malevolence as she swam towards the palace in the East Sea. "Damned Emperor of the Black Dragon country, I will return this humiliation 100-fold." In a luxurious palace in the East Sea Imperial Palace, a beautiful four-armed Naga with 4 arms, the upper body of a sexy and beautiful woman, the lower body of a snake, and a crown on her head, sat on a golden throne and indifferently looked at the kneeling Kuna. This peerlessly beautiful four-armed Naga beauty was the current queen of the Naga race, Stephanie. It was under her leadership that the Naga race continued to grow, and became a large race that could compete with the merfolk who occupied the Sea Palace. A great cleric like Kuna had a very high status in the Nagas. Originally, she only needed to kneel to the god worshipped by the Nagas. But every time they met, she would respectfully kneel to Stephanie, because Stephanie was one of the Naga divine system's gods appointed by the goddess of Nagas, Daphne. For the gods of the Fesua Plain, the planar tide was both a huge disaster and a huge opportunity. If it wasn't for the planar tide, Daphne wouldn't dare to disobey the strong divine power rank god of the sea Hrihari. However, if the Naga tribe could take the opportunity to give birth to a few deities during the planar tide, then the Naga tribe could take the opportunity to establish their own mountain and form their own faction. Just like how the goddess Lolth established the dark elven divine system, they would no longer be under the control of others. After listening to Kuna's report, Stephanie tapped the golden throne with her lily-white finger, and her beautiful eyes flickered with a sharp, cold glint. Stephanie showed a beautiful smile, and her beautiful eyes flashed with a cold glint. Interesting. The sea is the world of our merfolk. Even if the giant dragon clan came to the sea, they would have to fear us. That little barbarian king of the desolate islands dares to provoke us merfolk. I want to know what cards he has up his sleeve. An 8-meter-tall whaleman expert stepped forward and said loudly, "Your Majesty, I'm willing to lead troops to wipe out those barbarians." Stephanie glanced at the whaleman powerhouse and said coldly, "Dan, the apple of wisdom is about to ripen. Our biggest goal now is to let Agatha and the others retrieve the apple of wisdom, not to tangle with those barbarians." Dan's heart shook slightly and he stepped back. "Yes, Your Majesty." Stephanie's beautiful eyes flashed with a glint of wisdom, and she said faintly, "Kuna, go to the Black Dragon country again. Tell the Emperor of the Black Dragon country that we can temporarily recognize his dominance over the Eastern Sea for 3 years. However, he has to cooperate with us to sink all ships heading for the Apple of Wisdom." Kuna's beautiful eyes lit up, and she said excitedly, "Yes, Your Majesty." The Red Earth Wasteland, the Miracle City's City Master's mansion. Inside a secret room, the door suddenly opened, and Yang Feng walked out and went to his study. Inside the study, there were 2 sets of chairs, one for Yang Feng's office, and the other for Lina, the butler of the Miracle City. As soon as Yang Feng entered the study, he saw Lina, who was dressed up beautifully, reading various documents and handling various affairs. It was because of Lina and them that Yang Feng could travel around and practice cultivation in seclusion, and the Miracle City was still thriving. "Sir Duke, you're back." The sound of the door opening alarmed Lina. When she looked up and saw Yang Feng, her beautiful eyes flashed with excitement, and she got up to greet him. "I'm back. You've worked hard." Yang Feng looked at the beautiful Lina, and his heart suddenly stirred. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, and he reached out and embraced Lina. Lina's pretty face suddenly flushed, and her tender body trembled slightly. As if a timid bunny, she clenched her hands and closed her eyes, looking very cute. Yang Feng's heart stirred, and he lowered his head and kissed Lina on the lips. After a while, Lina lay softly in Yang Feng's arms, revealing a blissful expression. There were a few bright plum blossoms on the soft sofa. When a blooming flower can be plucked, it must be plucked. Don't wait until there are no flowers to be plucked. It feels so good to pluck flowers. Yang Feng looked at the sweet smile on Lina's face and raised the corners of his mouth, and he lowered his head and kissed her on the face. For the next 2 days, Yang Feng accompanied Lina. While listening to the development of the Miracle City, he took a stroll in the city. 3 days later, in the study of the Miracle City's City Master's mansion, when the gorgeous, mysterious and sexy Faldina, dressed in a black wizard robe, entered the study, her delicate nose twitched, and she creased her eyebrows, saying, "The smell in this room is a bit strange." Lina, the grand butler of the Miracle City, blushed and lowered her head. Her heart was in her throat and she was extremely shy. Faldina raised her eyebrows slightly, and then gracefully sat opposite Yang Feng and said, "By the way, Ian, it's almost time for that matter. If we don't move now, it'll be too late." Yang Feng got up and said, "I'm ready. Let's go." Faldina's beautiful eyes shimmered with graveness, and she said solemnly, "Ready? Are you ready to send warships and sailors? You need huge ships to go to the Golden Strait. Once you enter the Golden Strait, you won't be able to take off no matter what magic you use. Even gods will lose all their divine power and become mortals. Once you enter the Golden Strait, it'll be an era of naval warfare. Without a powerful enough ship, you won't even be able to reach the center of the Golden Strait." The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly, and he said faintly, "Don't worry, I'm ready. Is the legendary warship enough?" Shock welled up inside Faldina, and her beautiful eyes shimmered with incredulity. She quickly asked, "Legendary warship? Which one is it?" It took countless resources to manufacture a legendary warship. On the Feisua Plain, every legendary warship was famous and belonged to a different major force. Faldina didn't expect Yang Feng to be able to get his hands on a legendary warship without making any noise. Yang Feng said with a smile, "The Black Steel warship." Faldina's beautiful eyes flashed with an enigmatic glint, and she said with a sweet smile, "The legendary warship of the Sword and Skeleton Pirate King in the East Sea. You're really amazing to be able to get your hands on this warship." Yang Feng continued, "The Dragon Bones warship." Faldina's complexion changed slightly, and she said, "The Dragon Skeleton Pirates were also wiped out by you? They have the backing of the Country of Dragons. Aren't you afraid that the dragons of the Country of Dragons will come after you?" Chapter 425. Yang Feng uttered indifferently, "Ghost ship." Faldina's eyes flashed with astonishment and she exclaimed, "You even wiped out the Black Skeleton Pirates? Behind them is the Naga race, the strongest merfolk that dominates the East Sea. Are you crazy? You dare offend the Naga race? They control the route to the Golden Strait." Yang Feng said with a smile, "Now that we have 3 legendary warships, can we go to the Golden Strait?" Faldina's eyes flickered for a while and she calmed down. Her beautiful eyes turned and she revealed a smile. She got up from the sofa and came to Yang Feng's side. Of course. Yang Feng took Faldina to a secret room in the Miracle City. As soon as she entered the secret room, Faldina saw a warp gate full of sci-fi flair. As soon as Yang Feng operated the warp gate, a distorted space appeared inside the warp gate. Yang Feng said with a smile, extended his hand and invited, "Please come in." Faldina's beautiful eyes swirled, and she stepped into the distorted space with a smile. Yang Feng looked at Faldina's back with a peculiar glint in his eyes. Faldina's courage was also far beyond his expectations. Yang Feng stepped into the warp gate and came to another warp gate. Faldina silently followed Yang Feng through a dozen warp gates in a row, and finally arrived at a secret room in the Black Dragon Country. When Yang Feng and Faldina walked out of the secret room, they arrived at the Imperial Palace of the Black Dragon Country. "Greetings, Your Majesty." When the beautiful dragonborn warriors in the Imperial Palace saw Yang Feng and Faldina, they immediately knelt down and saluted respectfully, their eyes flashing with adoration. The story of the destruction of the 2 pirate kings in the East Sea had spread in the Black Dragon Country. The dragonborn experts with Black Dragon bloodline were full of awe for Yang Feng. Faldina looked curiously at the beautiful dragonborn around her and asked, "These are dragonborn? Is this the country of dragons?" Faldina raised her eyebrows and quickly analyzed. "No. The dragonborn of the country of dragons are loyal to the Dragon Emperor. Except for the Dragon Emperor, they don't address anyone else as His Majesty. This shouldn't be the country of dragons. Instead, he was a dragonborn born from the union of another giant dragon and a human. Ian, you're really impressive to be able to subdue a dragon man." There were no traces of dragonborn in the surroundings of the Red Earth Wasteland. This shouldn't be the Red Earth Wasteland but a hidden place. The door we just passed through should be a spatial door similar to a teleportation portal, right, Ian? Yang Feng carefully looked at Faldina and said with a smile, "Yes, Faldina, you're really smart." Faldina's analysis of all this was accurate, displaying her powerful analytical ability and wisdom. Faldina smiled charmingly. "Now, can you tell me where this place is?" Yang Feng said with a smile, "This is the Desolate Islands." Faldina's beautiful eyes suddenly lit up, and she said in surprise, "The Desolate Islands? Are you trying to intercept those ships heading for the Golden Strait?" The Desolate Islands were relatively close to the Golden Strait. With it as a base, they could organize a huge fleet to intercept the ships heading to the Golden Strait. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a peculiar glint, and he uttered, "That's right." Shocked, Faldina's beautiful eyes flickered with endless shock, and she uttered, "Are you crazy? Those who go to the Golden Strait are people favored by the gods. There are people favored by the gods, divine descendant families, clones of gods, and even gods who descend to the secular world and go to the Golden Strait. By doing this, you're offending all the gods." The apple of wisdom was a treasure that even the gods coveted. For the sake of the apple of wisdom, some feeble divine force rank and weak divine force rank gods would even take the risk to go to the Golden Strait to seize the apple of wisdom. For Yang Feng to want to set up a defensive line in the Golden Strait to intercept the many powerhouses heading for the Golden Strait was simply crazy. It could be said that if his plan succeeded, he would offend all the gods of the Feisua Plain. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with madness, and he said with a smile, "But it's worth it, isn't it?" Faldina's beautiful eyes flickered a few times, and she revealed a smile saying, "Yes, it's indeed worth it. As long as I get the apple of wisdom, then even if I have to become enemies with the gods, it's worth it." It took 30,000 years for an apple of wisdom to mature. Among the countless plains, only the Feisua Plain had an apple of wisdom. Every time an apple of wisdom appeared, it would cause countless powerhouses to fight over it. Those who seized the apple of wisdom and ate it, and then grew up smoothly, were at least weak divine power rank gods. There were even some mid-level divine power rank and strong divine power rank powerhouses. Weak divine force rank gods were powerful beings equivalent to glorious dawn warlocks of human warlocks. For an apple of wisdom to give people such formidable potential, it would naturally cause countless people to fight over it. For the sake of this apple of wisdom, Yang Feng didn't hesitate to become enemies with the gods of the Feisua Plain. Arlette strode out of the imperial palace and took a deep look at Faldina next to Yang Feng. Her beautiful eyes shimmered with hostility, and she said solemnly, "Your Majesty, the Naga Great Cleric Kuna requests an audience." When she heard that, Faldina's beautiful eyes shimmered with a peculiar glint, and she took a deep look at Yang Feng. Yang Feng raised his eyebrows and said lightly, "Cleric Kuna? Then tell her to come see me." Arlette responded, "Yes, Your Majesty." The Black Dragon Country in a rear garden. Yang Feng comfortably reclined on a soft sofa, appreciating the various beautiful flowers in the rear garden. Beautiful dragonborn court dancers danced provocatively and coquettishly in the garden. Faldina sat next to Yang Feng without a trace of politeness. While admiring the beautiful dance of the dragonborn dancers, she leisurely ate all kinds of fruits. Kuna came to the rear garden, took a deep look at Yang Feng, and said with a charming smile, "Your Majesty, I am an emissary sent by the Naga. It's my honor to meet you, Your Majesty." Yang Feng's killing intent was biting cold, and he said with a cold smile, "Did you bring a message declaring war on the merfolk?" Kuna's beautiful eyes shimmered with ridicule, yet there was a gentle smile on her pretty face. "No, Her Majesty the Empress is willing to rule the East Sea with you. However, there will be many outsiders attempting to go to the Golden Strait in the near future. Her Majesty the Empress invites you to join hands with us and eliminate those outsiders. In exchange, the East Sea's Sea Monarch Palace is willing to recognize the Black Dragon Country's dominance of the East Sea's waterways after this." Kuna sneered in her heart. "Humph! After you offend all the gods of the Feisua Plain, your trifling Black Dragon Country will be annihilated without the Naga needing to do anything." It wasn't that the Nagas couldn't intercept the countless ships heading to the Golden Strait, but that they needed a scapegoat. Even the Nagas weren't willing to offend the gods of the Feisua Plain. Yang Feng glanced coldly at Kuna and said indifferently, "You want to join hands with me? Sure, but you're not qualified to have the Naga Empress talk to me. By the way, my fleet will go to the Golden Strait today and set up a defensive line there. That's my territory. Anyone who comes within 300 kilometers of me without my permission will be regarded as an enemy and killed on the spot. All right, you can go back." Kuna's complexion changed dramatically and turned ashen, and she said stiffly, "Your Majesty, you'll regret this. You'll definitely regret what you said today. The East Sea belongs to the Nagas, not your East Sea. Without our permission, you won't be able to move an inch in the East Sea. You'll see for yourself soon enough." With that, Kuna turned around and strode out of the rear garden. Faldina asked curiously, "Ian, why did you refuse their proposal?" Yang Feng replied with a cold smile, "It's very simple. They don't have any sincerity in cooperating. They just want to find a scapegoat. If they aren't willing to cooperate sincerely, then why should I give them a spot to enter the Golden Strait?" Faldina's beautiful eyes shimmered with worry, and she said, "But the merfolk are very powerful. They are the true masters of the East Sea. Even if your 3 legendary warships join forces, they still won't be a match for the merfolk powerhouses. Yang Feng showed a mysterious smile, got up and said faintly, "Let's go." Faldina also got up and went to Yang Feng's side. Before long, the Black Steel warship, Dragonbone's warship, and Spectre ship anchored in the Black Dragon country's port formed a fleet and sailed towards the deep sea. In the sea near the Black Dragon country's port, Kuna emerged above the sea. Looking at Yang Feng's 3 legendary warships, she took out a communication stone and said, "Your Majesty, the Emperor of the Black Dragon country refused to talk to me. He said that only you are qualified to talk to him." The Naga Empress's cold and cruel voice came from the communication stone. "In that case, let's clear his head. I'll let him understand that the East Sea belongs to the Nagas." The 3 legendary warships had just sailed for about 300 nautical miles. Aboard the Black Steel warship, the corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly, and he said with a cold smile, "They came so fast." More than 100 meters below the sea, octopus people with octopus heads, 10-meter-tall whalemen with whale-like heads, burly and majestic tiger sharkmen, and various merfolk powerhouses silently swam towards the 3 legendary warships. Chapter 426. Yang Feng said flatly, "It's not good to punish without teaching Arlette." "Yes, Your Majesty." Dressed in a military uniform, the sexy and beautiful Arlette stepped forward, looked at the sea below, and said loudly, "Merfolk below, this is the fleet of the Black Dragon country's great His Majesty Ian. Please stop approaching at once, or we will regard you as enemies and annihilate you." The Black Steel warship had underwater sound amplifiers, and sound waves spread towards the merfolk powerhouses in the depths of the sea. Among the countless merfolk, a beautiful legend-ranked Naga general, Abina, sneered and said, "Humph, you want to annihilate us in the sea? How arrogant! The sea is our merfolk's sea. Even if demigod-rank powerhouses come to the sea, they will only be food for us. General Mist, show them what you're made of." A more than 30-meter-long legend-rank swordfishman powerhouse with a swordfish head and bone spurs all over his body responded in a low, muffled voice, "Yes, General." "Fire!" The swordfish Misty Chi roared, and more than 1,000 swordfish powerhouses covered in sharp bone spurs suddenly shot out countless sharp bone spurs like raindrops, turning into meteors that shot towards the Black Steel warship. The sharp bone spurs fired by the more than 1,000 swordfishman powerhouses were harder than steel. On the Feisua plain, only the Dragonbone's warship and some legendary warships refined from the most precious magic plants could barely resist them. Before Yang Feng's modification, the Black Steel warship could hardly resist the swordfishman's bone spurs. A scene that left the merfolk powerhouses dumbfounded appeared. When the sharp bone spurs fired by the swordfishman powerhouses stabbed into the Black Steel warship, they were immediately ricocheted, unable to harm the Black Steel warship in the slightest. General Mist's face changed dramatically and he roared wildly, How is this possible? We have attacked the Black Steel warship. Its armor is definitely not that strong." The Black Steel warship was one of the 3 legendary warships that ran amok in the East Sea. However, for the merfolk, the Black Steel warship was the one they feared the least of the 3 legendary warships. That was because the Black Steel warship's artillery was so powerful that it could easily destroy a warship used by humans. On the other hand, the Black Steel warship's cannons would find it difficult to hit the merfolk powerhouses in the sea. Moreover, among the sea race, the bone spikes shot by the swordfish race powerhouse were somewhat difficult, but they could completely penetrate the armor of the Black Steel warship. But now the attacks of the Swordfish clan couldn't harm the Black Steel warship at all. This naturally made the experts of the Swordfish clan dumbfounded, unable to believe their eyes. Yang Feng's gaze was ice-cold as he said coldly, "It's impolite not to reciprocate. Fire!" Numerous hatches opened on the parts of the Black Steel warship submerged in the sea, and a dense rain of torpedoes flew out and shot towards the merfolk. A tiger shark expert sneered. He waved his bone saber and slashed at the torpedo. "Humph! Fool, you think you can hurt us with just these things?" Rumble. Accompanied by a deafening explosion, the Tiger Shark clan expert was blown to pieces in an instant, turning into countless pieces. Boom! 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 One after another, terrifying explosions sounded in the midst of the merfolk army. The merfolk powerhouses had never seen anything like torpedoes before. They raised their weapons and launched an attack on the torpedoes. Countless torpedoes were detonated, and their bodies were blown to pieces. The complexion of the beautiful legend-ranked Naga general changed greatly, and she shouted loudly, "Don't attack those things. Dodge at once. Dodge. Clerics, Naga clerics, quickly take action." When the merfolk powerhouses saw the terror of the torpedoes, their complexion changed greatly, and they quickly scattered to avoid the torpedoes. See whirlpool. Naga clerics dressed in dark blue cleric robes specially made by the merfolk swam down, silently recited an incantation, and pointed at the torpedoes with the staff in their hands. Terrifying ocean whirlpools suddenly appeared and swept the torpedoes into the terrifying ocean whirlpools. Rumble! Boom! Terrifying explosions rang out continuously, as the torpedoes were sucked into the whirlpool and detonated one after another. Yang Feng looked at the sea whirlpool and revealed a smile. Interesting. Merfolk clerics really have some skill. Faldina rolled her eyes at Yang Feng and said angrily, "You can still smile? This weapon of yours has already been destroyed. Now there are no weapons that can threaten the merfolk." Yang Feng smiled faintly and ordered, "Why not? Sea hunters, set out." The hatch of the black steel warship opened, and sea hunters about 1.5 meters long, which were similar to sailfish with blade-like fins on their bodies, sharp blade-like parts on every joint, and mouths full of beast-like sharp teeth, swam into the sea one after another. As soon as the swarm of sea hunters entered the sea, they immediately formed strange whirlpools and rushed towards the merfolk powerhouses like a school of fish. A 10-meter-tall whaleman expert let out a furious roar, raised a 10-ton anchor, and smashed it towards the sea hunters. A dozen-plus sea hunters drifted strangely along the current, and then strangely appeared in front of the whaleman powerhouse and pounced at him. Very strangely, as if defying the laws of physics, countless sea hunters appeared on the whale powerhouse and pounced at him. Ah! Help! Amidst a series of miserable screams, the whaleman powerhouse was devoured by the countless sea hunters and turned into a skeleton. This scene kept happening among the merfolk. Like the most ferocious demonic creatures, the sea hunters moved very strangely. Practically no merfolk powerhouses could hit them. As long as they surrounded the merfolk, they would be devoured. Skeletons of the Sea Clan continued to appear in the deep sea. It was a creepy feeling that made one's hair stand on end. Go to hell. Trash. The legend-rank swordfish mist roared and waved the magic sword in his hand, which carried a trace of the law of water, and slashed towards the sea hunters. With a flash of blade ray, 3 sea hunters were chopped into countless pieces by the swordfish mist. In the next moment, dozens of sea hunters rushed towards the swordfish mist along the current like ghosts. A series of blood-curdling screams came from the mouth of the swordfish mist. In less than 5 seconds, it was devoured by the ferocious and terrifying sea hunter and turned into a pile of bones. The beautiful legend-ranked Naga general inhaled a breath of cold air and barked, "Retreat! We're retreating!" The 500-plus Naga powerhouses quickly swam over and gathered beside the beautiful legend-ranked Naga general. The beautiful legend-ranked Naga general tore a magic scroll, and a fearsome spatial force instantly enveloped the beautiful Naga general and her party. They instantly blurred and then disappeared. Yang Feng glanced at the holographic projection and said with a faint smile, "They escaped quickly. As for the rest of the merfolk, kill them all." Under Yang Feng's order, the dense swarm of sea hunters turned into a frightening shoal that swept towards the thousands of merfolk warriors that remained. 10 minutes later, thousands of merfolk warriors' skeletons appeared in the deep sea. After devouring the merfolk warriors, the dense swarm of sea hunters swam back into the black steel warship. Faldina stared at the holographic projection, and her beautiful eyes flashed with astonishment, saying, "What an amazing golem! It's really amazing." Faldina said with a dignified expression, "However, Ian, you've greatly offended the goddess of Nagas. In this way, it will be even more difficult for us to go to the Golden Strait. The goddess of Nagas may even attack us in person." The apple of wisdom contained endless mysteries, and even the goddess of Nagas yearned for it. For the sake of the apple of wisdom, It wouldn't be strange for her to attack in person. Although the gods signed an agreement, but as long as the goddess of Nagas was willing to pay a huge price, there was still a way to break the agreement for a short period of time and attack the secular world. As an intermediate divine force rank expert, the goddess of Nagas was a notch stronger than the Tsangji Plains human bright world warlocks. Once she attacked in person, her power would be absolutely earth-shattering. Yang Feng said with a faint smile, "Don't worry, I have my own arrangements." Faldina took a deep look at Yang Feng, smiled sweetly, and didn't say anything else. The East Sea inside the Sea Monarch Palace. The beautiful legend-ranked Naga general knelt in front of the Naga Empress Stephanie, her tender body trembling. The Naga Empress Stephanie glanced at the beautiful general and said coldly, "Jenna, since you lost, I will deprive you of all your official positions. Go to the Vanguard Battalion and become a soldier to atone for your crimes." Jenna heaved a sigh of relief and said respectfully, "Yes, Your Majesty." Stephanie said coldly, "You're dismissed." Jenna withdrew at once, "Yes, Your Majesty." Stephanie tapped with her lily-white finger. An extraordinary splendor swirled in her beautiful eyes, and she said in a low voice, "Since you can defeat Jenna's troops, it seems that Emperor Ian of the Black Dragon country really shouldn't be underestimated." As expected of the legendary figure, who founded the Miracle City in the Red Earth Wasteland. Other merfolk aside, Stephanie was a peerless powerhouse of the Naga Empress who sought to dominate the Feisua Plain. She was one of the top emperors of this plain. Yang Feng's performance was so dazzling that she only had to do a little investigation to find out his origin. Chapter 427. Stephanie hesitated for a while, then her beautiful eyes flickered with enigmatic light, and she got up and walked towards the back of the royal palace. In the depths of the royal palace in the East Sea, there was an exquisite deep-sea temple. As soon as Stephanie entered the deep-sea temple, she prostrated herself on the ground and said respectfully, not daring to raise her head, "Great goddess, we failed. Ian used a kind of magical alchemy puppet to kill the troops I sent out. I don't have any confidence in defeating Ian. Only you can stop him from going to the Golden Strait." In the center of the deep-sea shrine, there was a golden throne, and on it sat a peerlessly beautiful and noble woman with 6 arms. This gorgeous woman was the avatar of the goddess of Nagas Daphne, who descended into the secular world. In the secular world, only the goddess of Nagas Daphne had the qualifications to make the Naga Empress Stephanie kneel. Daphne slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were golden, and wisps of golden divine light slowly radiated from her eyes. When she closed her eyes, she looked like a stone, as if she had merged with heaven and earth. When she opened her eyes, a vast divine might spread in the hall in an instant. Under the pressure of the frightening divine might, Stephanie's pretty face changed, and her delicate body trembled. The goddess of Nagas Daphne swept Stephanie with her golden eyes and said indifferently, "I know. You're dismissed." Stephanie replied respectfully, "Yes, great goddess." With a flash of azure light, the goddess of Nagas Daphne disappeared from where she stood. The eastern sea above the azure sea. Yang Feng was sitting on the bridge of the black steel warship. Arlette was kneeling in front of him, and 2 top dragonborn girls were peeling fruits for him. There were also 2 beautiful dragon human girls standing behind him, carefully massaging his body to relax his muscles. Suddenly, waves churned and surged, and the peerlessly beautiful goddess of Nagas Daphne with a noble temperament suddenly appeared in the sea. Gazing coldly at Yang Feng, she trod on the waves and walked towards him. "God! This is getting out of hand. How could a god take action? This is too shameless." And it was the goddess of Nagas Daphne. He is a terrifying existence at the mid-level divine power level. When Yang Feng saw the goddess of Nagas Daphne, his face suddenly fell. He had expected that the Naga Empress would lead the merfolk army to fight him. Even if the entire East Sea's merfolk army came to fight him, he wouldn't be afraid. However, the goddess of Nagas Daphne came in person, even though she was only an incarnation, and her power was suppressed to the demigod level. He did not have the slightest confidence in defeating him. Faldina's beautiful eyes flashed with shock, and she cried out, "The goddess of Nagas! The Naga god!" As soon as she said this, The expressions of the surrounding experts of the dragon-human race changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with fear as they looked at the goddess of Nagas, Daphne, who rode the wind and waves toward them. Gods were supreme. This was a fact that all intelligent life forms on the Feisua plane knew since childhood. When the dragonborn experts heard that an incarnation of a true god appeared in front of them, they were naturally filled with shock and fear. The goddess of Nagas, Daphne, flickered above the sea and swam towards the black steel warship. A vast and terrifying divine might spread in all directions with her as the core. Under the pressure of the divine might, the dragonborn experts aboard the 3 legendary warships involuntarily knelt on the ground, trembled, and their eyes filled with fear. After receiving Yangfeng's guidance, Arlette's cultivation base advanced by leaps and bounds, and she reached the quasi-starry sky warlock realm. But still, under the pressure of the divine might, she knelt on one knee and held the silver dragon's spear, unable to budge. "Greetings, mighty goddess of Nagas." Under the pressure of the divine might, Yangfeng got up and saluted the goddess of Nagas Daphne from afar. When the goddess of Nagas Daphne saw that Yangfeng was able to resist her divine might, her majestic golden eyes shimmered with an enigmatic gleam, and she uttered loftily, "Petty mortal, you can actually resist my divine might. Among mortals, you're a genius. I appreciate you very much. Abandon your original faith and believe in me again. In this way, I will grant you boundless power and glory. The entire East Sea will be your territory, and you will become the East Sea Emperor. In the future, I will even grant you the power to become a true god and make you immortal and immortal." Yangfeng spread his hands and said with a pious expression, "Mighty goddess of Nagas, I am the most devout believer of the mighty goddess of the Weave Gargerstave. I have decided to dedicate everything I have to the mighty goddess of the Weave Gargerstave. I can sense that her gaze is always on me." The goddess of Nagas Daphne frowned slightly. She didn't want to offend a strong divine force rank god lightly. Normally, she would abide by the rules of the game of the gods, and have the Naga Empress lead countless merfolk powerhouses to besiege Yangfeng. But for the sake of the Apple of Wisdom, she could only send her avatar out. The goddess of Nagas Daphne contemplated for a while, then her majestic golden eyes radiated golden light, and she looked at Yangfeng. Yangfeng's heart shook slightly. He operated a secret method to conceal the warlock life force inside him, and simulated the trajectory of magic and martial dual cultivation. The golden light in the eyes of the goddess of Nagas Daphne extinguished, and she uttered coldly, "Mortal, I order you not to go to the Golden Strait. Go back to the Black Dragon country." Yangfeng was courteous yet resolute. "I'm very sorry. I'm determined to get the Apple of Wisdom. Even someone as great as you can't change my will." The eyebrows of the goddess of Nagas Daphne creased slightly, and she uttered coldly, "There are countless natural disasters in the East Sea, you're on your own." A wave rolled, and the goddess of Nagas Daphne disappeared. Only then did Yangfeng feel slightly relieved. At this moment, dark clouds churned and surged in the sky. The entire world was covered by dark clouds. Light was obscured, and darkness enveloped the land. On the originally calm sea surface, a gust of wind blew and waves surged into the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the dark clouds, and rumbling sounds echoed incessantly. A dense hail fell from the sky, crashing downwards. The dragonborn powerhouses aboard the 3 legendary warships hid inside the warships. When the hailstones hit the 3 legendary warships, the sound of rain hitting banana leaves was heard. The temperature plummeted to below zero in an instant, and everyone was forced to urge their power to resist the frightening cold. A gust of wind blew. Amid the hail and rain, a violent tornado formed in the distance and grew larger and larger. A copious amount of sea water was drawn into the tornado, forming a terrifying whirlpool. The terrifying tornado that could devour the 3 legendary warships swept over at an astonishing speed. This frightening natural disaster was even more frightening than a level 5 divine spell. Once the 3 legendary warships were drawn into the terrifying tornado, even if they weren't destroyed, they would be swept away by the tornado and even blown away from the East Sea. Taking advantage of the unique geography and climate of the East Sea, the goddess of Nagas Daphne combined divine power with the power of nature to form this terrifying tornado. Dispel. Advanced Dispel. Faldina's pretty face flickered. She silently recited an incantation and pointed at the terrifying tornado, and magic radiances fell on it. The dispel and high-tier dispel spells that could dispel persistent spells disappeared when they fell into the tornado. They had no effect. The giant tornado formed from the combination of divine power and natural force was not something that could be dispelled by ordinary dispel. Yang Feng sneered. Sure enough, as long as the benefits are big enough, any agreement is fake. Dive. Numerous pieces of armor extended from the black steel warship, and the warship quickly transformed into a huge submarine. The Spectre ship and the Dragonbones warship arrived next to the black steel warship. Numerous pieces of metal extended from the black steel warship and formed two huge cabins that wrapped around the two legendary warships, and then quickly dived into the depths of the sea. While the sky was raging, the sea below was very calm, not affected in the slightest. The terrifying tornado swept towards them, and its speed was getting faster and faster. Below the sea, a frightening whirlpool was also quickly moving this way. When the three warships dived to a depth of 400 meters, the frightening whirlpool formed from the tornado shrouded the stern of the black steel warship. A frightening attractive force instantly enveloped the stern of the black steel warship and pulled it towards the whirlpool inch by inch. Yang Feng ordered coldly, "Remove the aft armor." As if a lizard's tail, the stern of the black steel warship broke off and was swallowed by the frightening whirlpool, and then swept into the sky. The one-third of the black steel warship that was swallowed by the whirlpool continued to swim towards the Golden Strait. The goddess of Nagas Daphne strangely appeared behind the black steel warship. Her golden eyes shimmered gloomily, and she pointed at the black steel warship with a blue spear in her hand, and fearsome divine power fluctuations suddenly took shape on the blue spear. In an instant, a frightening whirlpool suddenly took shape, swept towards the black steel warship, enveloped it, and pulled it towards the whirlpool below the tornado. Chapter 428. Yang Feng's face flickered and he ordered, "You don't even care about face, are you going to attack? Release the sea hunters." The hatch of the black steel warship opened, and a large number of sea hunters poured out, baring their sharp teeth and biting towards the huge whirlpool. There was a flash of contempt in the beautiful eyes of the goddess of Nagas Daphne, and she sneered, "Idiot. That's the power of a divine spell. Physical attacks have no effect." In the next moment, an incredible scene suddenly appeared. Under the frenzied devouring of the sea hunters, the terrifying whirlpool strangely disappeared. One of the characteristics of sea hunters was the ability to devour energy, and divine force was no exception. This was their most terrifying characteristic. When the goddess of Nagas Daphne saw this scene, her face finally flickered. Yang Feng sneered in his heart, "Of course my sea rippers aren't that simple. They are battle robots that can devour any energy." After the sea rippers devoured the huge whirlpool, the black steel warship's large positron artillery turned and aimed at the goddess of Nagas Daphne. Although the black steel warship's large positron artillery wasn't as powerful as the large positron artillery installed on the black steel warship, but even if it was a Moonlight Warlock rank powerhouse, their life force field would be pierced and their fleshly body would be seriously injured. There was a flash of anger in the beautiful eyes of the goddess of Nagas Daphne, and she uttered coldly, "Petty mortal, do you want to attack me? Attack a mighty true god." Ever since the goddess of Nagas Daphne ascended to the position of god, no one dared to attack her. Even if she was just an avatar, no one dared to attack her. Yang Feng glanced at the goddess of Nagas Daphne from the holographic projector and smiled coldly, not saying a word. If provoked, he wouldn't care whether the goddess of Nagas Daphne was a true god or not. The planar tide had arrived, and the Feisua Plains Dark Age was about to arrive. In the Age of Chaos, legends were as common as dogs, demigods roamed the streets, and it was easy to encounter avatars or even true bodies of gods. The majesty of gods was no longer as strong as it was in the past. Gods had a long lifespan and were far more powerful than their peers. They were powerful existences that stood at the pinnacle of various planes. Even on the Tsangji plane, among human warlocks of the same rank, only the most outstanding geniuses could deal with a god of the same rank. However, gods also had many weaknesses, the biggest of which was the planar tide. Once the planar tide arrived, they would be at their weakest. Yang Feng said coldly, Great goddess of Nagas, please stop. Since you're a god, I can pretend that nothing happened just now. Otherwise. When Yang Feng said that, Faldina's complexion suddenly changed, and she stared at him as if she didn't know him. On the Feisua plain, it was the first time that Faldina heard that someone dared to disrespect a true god. Moreover, this true god wasn't a feeble divine force rank god like the god of pirates, but an intermediate divine force rank merfolk god. How dare you? Lowly humans. How dare you threaten me? Threatening a true god. Then you can go to hell. Furious, the goddess of Nagas Daphne pointed at the black steel warship with the god armament spear of the East Sea, and fearsome fluctuations of power spread from the spear of the East Sea. Countless water elemental particles frantically gathered in front of the spear of the East Sea, and in an instant 3 water blades, ignoring the laws of physics, slashed towards the black steel warship at a terrifying speed of 10 times the speed of sound. Virtually at the same time, the swarm of sea hunters opened their energy shields, gathered together, and formed a huge energy shield that blocked in front of the 3 water blades. The 3 water blades easily split the energy shield formed by countless sea hunters, slashed more than 100 sea hunters along the way, and then mercilessly slashed at the energy shield that the black steel warship had just activated. Boom! With a blare, the energy shield of the black steel warship shattered in an instant, and the 3 water blades containing the law of water slashed at the hull of the black steel warship, leaving 3 deep scars, and a copious amount of seawater poured into the black steel warship. Inside the black steel warship, a large number of engineering robots quickly rushed to the damaged armor area and repaired the black steel warship. Yang Feng's eyes flashed coldly, and he immediately ordered, "Since we've shed all pretenses of cordiality, then go to hell." A dense crowd of sea hunters swam out of the black steel warship and rushed towards the goddess of Nagas Daphne in a strange manner. The space disruptors also silently hid among the sea hunters and charged towards the goddess of Nagas Daphne. The space disruptors have been transformed into naval warfare types. Although their movement speed was far slower than that on land and in the sky, but they could still play a role. Despicable mortal, how dare you attack me? Then you're dead. Today, I'll let you know the consequences of offending a true god. The goddess of Nagas Daphne looked at the dense crowd of sea hunters with a fierce glint in her eyes, and she slashed at the sea with the god armament spear of the East Sea in her hand. A divine country shrouded by the endless sea with only a dozen plus islands suddenly appeared, and a vast and fearsome aura full of the law of water exuded from the divine country. The sea in the divine country churned and roiled. A 500-meter-long giant octopus with countless tentacles and exuding moonlight warlock rank aura suddenly emerged from the divine country, and crawled out of the opening cut by the spear of the East Sea. When the giant octopus crawled out of the divine country, its pinnacle moonlight warlock rank aura dropped to pinnacle starry sky warlock rank. As soon as the 500-meter-long octopus crawled out of the divine kingdom of the goddess of Nagas, it immediately opened its mouth full of sharp teeth and sucked frantically. A fearsome whirlpool emerged from the giant octopus's mouth and swept towards the dense crowd of sea hunters. Under the terrifying suction force, the sea hunters flew into the mouth of the demon octopus. Then, the demon octopus twisted them into pieces and swallowed them. In addition to using its mouthparts to attack, the huge octopus also has over 100 tentacles. The 100 tentacles are like poisonous snakes slapping at the sea hunters, directly shattering the sea hunters. Go to hell. Yang Feng glanced at the goddess of Nagas Daphne and uttered coldly. The black steel warship's large-caliber positron artillery flashed, and a resplendent beam tore through the sea and barreled towards the goddess of Nagas Daphne in an instant. The spatial disruptors hidden in various places launched at once, and spatial disruption ripples extended in all directions, making it impossible for the goddess of Nagas Daphne to escape the positron artillery through spatial spells. The goddess of Nagas Daphne slashed with the god armament spear of the East Sea in her hand, and a fearsome spatial fluctuation enveloped her. Using spatial magic to avoid such a powerful attack was something that any battle god would do subconsciously. Very few gods would stand still and cast defensive spells to resist such a powerful attack. As soon as the spatial fluctuation appeared, it neutralized the spatial fluctuation released by the spatial disruptors. The goddess of Nagas Daphne's figure twisted, but she still stood in place. His expression changed slightly, and the positron cannon instantly blasted his body, shattering his lower body. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with excitement. Did I kill it? Faldina's breathing stagnated, and she stared at the holographic projection. Killing a god's clone. This lawless matter filled the usually rebellious Faldina with excitement, and she shuddered all over. Water rippled, and streams of water elemental particles gushed out of the god armament spear of the East Sea, interwove with each other, and formed half of Daphne's body. You dare to hurt me! You lowly human ant, you dare to hurt me! Holding the god armament spear of the East Sea in her hand, the goddess of Naga's Daphne's golden eyes almost spewed fire. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and endless killing intent gushed out of her. Although the goddess of Naga's Daphne has reassembled her body, but she was indeed injured by the positron artillery bombardment. If it had been an ordinary peak demigod powerhouse, he would have been directly killed by that shot just now. Only a terrifying existence like him, who had the battle consciousness of a mid-level divine power level powerhouse, could cast a spell at the critical moment and survive. I not only dare to hurt you, but I also dare to kill you. Now that they had fallen out, Yang Feng no longer had any scruples, and released the Dragon Bones warship and the Spectre ship. The positron artillery installed on the Dragon Bones warship and the Spectre ship was slightly adjusted, and then aimed at the goddess of Naga's Daphne. It's no use, lowly mortal. I was just careless just now, and that's why I was slightly injured. As long as I'm prepared, you lowly ants can't hurt me. The beautiful eyes of the goddess of Naga's Daphne shimmered coldly, and she spoke with a cold smile. Her body fluttered, and along with the water ripples, she looked like she had merged with the seawater. Yang Feng smiled coldly. You think you're smart, fool. My target isn't you. In the blink of an eye, the two positron artillery beams tore through the seawater and slammed into the goddess of Naga's Daphne, easily pierced through her, and then slammed into the octopus's eyes. A copious amount of blood spurted out of the octopus's eyes, and the ferocious octopus was seriously injured. Chapter 429. The goddess of Naga's Daphne operated the law of water, and she merged with the sea water. Even the positron beams couldn't harm her. However, Yang Feng's goal wasn't her, but the supergiant octopus with almost endless power. The supergiant octopus was a pinnacle moonlight warlock rank extraordinary life form. After its eyes were pierced through by the positron beams, it still didn't die. The shattered eyes were regenerating at an incredible speed. The various parts of his body that had been penetrated by the positron cannon were also regenerating at a crazy speed. Taking advantage of the moment when the supergiant devil octopus was heavily injured, countless ocean hunters formed a school of fish and pounced towards the supergiant devil octopus in a strange trajectory. The hundreds of tentacles of the supergiant octopus were devoured by the fearsome sea hunters. The countless sea hunters swam to in front of the supergiant octopus and frantically gnawed at its eyes, causing it unbearable pain, and issued miserable screams. Although the supergiant octopus was far more powerful and had extraordinary talent than ordinary moonlight warlocks, but it had a single method of fighting, and was not the opponent of the countless sea hunters. In fact, among the countless planes, the opponents that human warlocks feared the most were races with similar wisdom and civilization. But they didn't fear extraordinary life forms without much wisdom. Some great warlock rank human warlocks could even use some special means, such as elixirs, to hunt moonlight warlock rank extraordinary life forms with obvious weaknesses. Whirlpool Waterblade. The goddess of Naga's Daphne slashed with the god armament spear of the East Sea, and a fearsome whirlpool suddenly emerged beside the supergiant octopus. Countless water blades entered the whirlpool and slashed at the sea hunters around the supergiant octopus. Under the precise manipulation of the goddess of Naga's Daphne, the sharp water blades slashed at the sea hunters around the supergiant octopus. Hundreds and thousands of ocean hunters were chopped into countless parts by the terrifying water blades, scattering on the ground. The dense crowd of sea hunters rushed towards the fearsome whirlpool of water blades, opened their mouths, and devoured the divine power contained in the whirlpool of water blades. The terrifying whirlpool of water blades only lasted for less than 30 seconds before it was devoured by the terrifying sea hunter. Sea God's Domain. The goddess of Naga's Daphne's expression changed slightly, and a vast and boundless divine might emanated from her body. A divine country projection rose behind the goddess of Nagas Daphne, and an azure divine force beam descended from the divine country projection and entered the goddess of Nagas Daphne. A vast and terrifying aura diffused from the goddess of Nagas Daphne, and an azure light spread in all directions with her as the center. Wherever the azure light passed, everything turned into the sea god domain of Daphne, the goddess of Nagas. Within the scope of the sea god's divine domain, countless sharp water blades suddenly burst out and slashed the sea hunters. In an instant, hundreds of thousands of sea hunters were chopped into countless broken parts. Yang Feng watched as the hundreds of thousands of sea hunters were smashed to pieces, and his eyes shimmered with astonishment. He grasped the button of the nuclear warhead. So strong! This is the power of an intermediate divine force rank god. Even if it's just a demigod rank clone, the might supported by divine force is comparable to that of a moonlight warlock rank powerhouse. The Black Steel warship was equipped with dozens of nuclear warheads. When necessary, Yang Feng would not hesitate to launch nuclear warheads to attack the goddess of Nagas Daphne. When the terrifying azure divine realm was about to extend in front of the Black Steel warship, the goddess of Nagas Daphne, who was holding the spear of the East Sea, suddenly trembled slightly, and drops of golden blood dripped from the corners of her mouth. The divine country projection behind the goddess of Nagas Daphne trembled, and then collapsed and disappeared. The azure divine domain, which easily killed hundreds of thousands of sea hunters, collapsed as well. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of a smile. Well done! How dare you use the power of a god in the middle of a planar tide? You're really reckless. In the planar tide, the secular world of the Feisua plane could only accommodate pinnacle demigod rank power. Once someone used power surpassing the pinnacle demigod rank, they would suffer a backlash. The goddess of Nagas Daphne was holding the spear of the East Sea. She stood on the giant octopus and said in a condescending tone, "Ian, I've destroyed all your alchemy puppets. Now it's not too late to surrender." After the hundreds of thousands of sea hunters were insta-killed by the goddess of Nagas Daphne, the huge octopus quickly recovered its body and its hundreds of gnawed tentacles at an incredible speed of regeneration. Exuding a frightening aura, it stared at the three legendary warships. "Is that so? Great goddess of Nagas Daphne, I still have a lot of alchemical golems. Please don't stand on ceremony and try to eliminate them all." Yang Feng's voice sounded in the sea, and countless sea hunters poured out of the Black Steel warship and formed a frightening shoal that confronted the goddess of Nagas Daphne. When the goddess of Nagas Daphne saw this scene, she inhaled a breath of cold air. If it wasn't for the planar tide, the goddess of Nagas Daphne's true body could easily insta-kill Yang Feng and his party along with the countless sea hunters. However, under the influence of the planar tide, even if the goddess of Nagas Daphne's true body came, the power she could use wouldn't exceed that of a pinnacle starry sky warlock. With the goddess of Nagas Daphne's true body's understanding of divine power and laws, she could even kill moonlight warlock rank powerhouses in the East Sea. However, not only did she have many enemies, but she might not be able to defeat Yang Feng. If she was careless, she might die. Faced with such a possibility, she wouldn't let her true body show up. Yang Feng said with a smile, "Great goddess of Nagas Daphne, there is no irreconcilable enmity between us. I personally believe that it is more in our interest to be friends than enemies." The goddess of Nagas Daphne smiled, retracted the frightening divine might she exuded in an instant, and the spear of the East Sea in her hand disappeared. She said lightly, "That's right, Ian, you do have the qualifications to communicate with me on an equal footing. It is more in our interest to be friends." The hundreds of tentacles of the giant octopus swept through the air and rushed towards the Black Steel warship. On the Black Steel warship, countless experts of the dragon human race were filled with fear as they stared at the terrifying giant demon octopus. When she arrived near the Black Steel warship, the goddess of Nagas Daphne's figure blurred, and she appeared on the deck of the Black Steel warship. Light instantly enveloped the goddess of Nagas Daphne, and she was teleported to a spacious and luxuriously decorated banquet hall inside the Black Steel warship. Inside the banquet hall, there were countless handsome dragonborn men and beautiful women. "I'm glad that you came to the banquet I held for you, great goddess of Nagas Daphne." With a courteous smile on his face, Young Feng walked towards the goddess of Nagas Daphne. Faldina, dressed in a black evening dress, was holding his right arm. The goddess of Nagas Daphne said lightly, "Have the miscellaneous people leave?" "Yes." Young Feng waved his hand, and everyone in the banquet hall left. The goddess of Nagas Daphne looked at Faldina next to Young Feng, and Faldina obediently left. Only Young Feng and the goddess of Nagas Daphne remained in the banquet hall. The two came to a sofa and sat down. The goddess of Nagas Daphne stared at Young Feng and said indifferently, "Ian, you are not from the Feisua Plain. If I'm not mistaken, you should be a human warlock from the Zhangji Plain. Besides, you are an alchemist who inherited the secret methods of the 6th Warlock dynasty, the Golem dynasty." Young Feng replied with a smile, "That's right. There were all kinds of incredible mechanical parts inside the Sea Hunters. If the goddess of Nagas Daphne couldn't guess Young Feng's identity after seeing those mechanical parts, then she wouldn't be worthy of being a god who wanted to establish a divine system." The goddess of Nagas Daphne asked lightly, "Did you come to the Feisua Plain for the Apple of Wisdom?" Young Feng replied without concealing anything, "That's right, I'm determined to get the Apple of Wisdom." The goddess of Nagas Daphne said lightly, "Very well. Then let's compete fairly. My divine chosen grace will also go to the Golden Strait to seize the Apple of Wisdom. We can join forces to block the Golden Strait. After we reach the Golden Plain, you two can compete for the Apple of Wisdom based on your own abilities. If you can get the Apple of Wisdom smoothly, then I'm willing to form an alliance with you and help you become a god." Young Feng contemplated for a while, and then said decisively, "Okay." The goddess of Nagas Daphne was an intermediate divine force rank god, the ruler of the East Sea. Even under the influence of the planar tide, she was still extremely powerful and possessed terrifying strength. To get the support of such an ally, Young Feng naturally wouldn't refuse. After Young Feng and the goddess of Nagas Daphne reached an agreement, the journey was uneventful, and the 3 legendary warships smoothly arrived at the Golden Strait. As soon as they arrived at the Golden Strait, battleships, anti-air cruisers, and marine aircraft carriers immediately flew out of the Black Steel warship. Chapter 430. The Apple of Wisdom was hidden in the Golden Plain inside the Golden Strait. Using the Feisua Plain's origin force, the Time Lord set up a huge magic array in the Golden Strait. In this area, even god-rank powerhouses would be weakened and turned into ordinary people. Only great warlock-rank powerhouses could enter the Golden Strait and the Golden Plain. Even great warlock-rank powerhouses couldn't enter the Golden Plain before the Apple of Wisdom matured. The reason why the gods of the Xalia divine system could enter the Golden Plain and accelerate the ripening of the Apple of Wisdom was because they gathered the power of a divine system and forcibly opened a path to the Golden Plain. Now that the planar tide had arrived, the power of the gods of the Feisua Plain in the secular world was weakened to the extreme. Even if the gods of the Feisua Plain joined forces, they still wouldn't be able to break through the Golden Strait and open a path to the Golden Plain. Because of this, the huge fleet Young Feng released from the Black Steel warship only covered the entrance to the Golden Strait. 20 battle fleets with steel carriers as the core patrolled around the Golden Strait, ready to sink any ships that dared to approach the Golden Strait at any time. Young Feng's goal was to eliminate any warships qualified to enter the Golden Strait, so that as few people as possible could enter the Golden Strait. On the surface of the sea, a beautiful woman with long blue hair, eyes as beautiful as sapphires, dressed in a blue dress, a curvaceous figure, skin as white as jade, a mixture of heroic and sexy temperament, rode the waves and floated to the surface of the sea. "This is the territorial waters of the mighty Black Dragon country. Please report your origins. Otherwise, we'll treat you as an enemy and annihilate you." A loud voice rang out in the sea. Countless artillery fire from a steel fleet was aimed at the peerless beauty in an evening dress, exuding a heroic and sexy temperament. With an order, the countless artillery fire would tear the peerless beauty to pieces. Below the sea, the battle fleets formed by countless sea rippers were eyeing covetously from all directions. The peerless beauty smiled faintly, parted her cherry lips, and said in a magnetic voice, "I am Grace. I came to pay my respects to His Majesty the mighty Emperor of the Black Dragon country. Please come in." The huge fleet moved, revealing a path to the black steel battleship. Grace curiously looked at the modern aircraft carrier battle group while riding the waves towards the black steel warship. As soon as Grace arrived in front of the black steel warship, the wave extended and carried her directly to the deck of the black steel warship. With a light leap, she jumped onto the deck of the black steel warship. On a dais of the black steel warship, there is a luxurious litter. Yang Feng is reclining on the luxurious litter, and there are several beautiful dragonborn sitting beside him peeling fruits for him. On the deck, a dozen plus beautiful dragonborn dancers were dancing gracefully for Yang Feng. When it was time to practice cultivation, Yang Feng would practice cultivation more assiduously than anyone else. But when he could enjoy it, he would never torture himself. Grace took a deep look at Yang Feng, then bowed slightly in salute and uttered, "Well met, Your Majesty the mighty Emperor." Sitting in the luxurious litter, Yang Feng glanced at the beautiful and enchanting Grace and said in a slightly arrogant tone, "Has your merfolk army arrived? According to the agreement between me and the mighty goddess of Nagas Daphne, if your merfolk don't send troops, then don't even think about entering the Golden Strait. When the two forces join forces, either the east wind prevails over the west wind, or the west wind prevails over the east wind. If Yang Feng wanted to take the lead of the two forces, he had to be aggressive and unyielding. Chapter 431. When Bondas saw the densely packed steel warships, his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets, and he exclaimed, "Steel warships! There are so many steel warships! Are these all legendary warships?" On the Feisua plain there were only a few legendary warships that were steel warships. The rest of the warships were still wooden warships. The densely packed frigates, destroyers and aircraft carriers, which surpassed the warships of the Feisua plain by God knows how many eras, were far beyond the imagination of the famous naval general Bondas of the Kingdom of Enlu. The huge fleet had just appeared in Bondas' field of vision, when the sound of cannons rang and countless rays of fire shot out from the steel fleets. Boom! Along with a loud noise, a 100-meter-long White Royal warship was hit by a cannonball, and the frightening explosion blasted the warship in two, and it slowly sank into the sea. When he saw this, Bondas was dumbfounded and exclaimed, "How is this possible? How can there be such a powerful cannonball?" When the naval warriors of the White Royal fleet saw the sunken White Royal warship, they couldn't help but feel their blood run cold. On the Feisua plain, it was common knowledge that warships of 100 captains could still fight even after being hit by hundreds of cannons. But now, the warships of the White Royal fleet were blasted to pieces and sunk. This reality gave rise to a cold feeling in the hearts of the naval elites, who have been fighting in the sea for more than a decade. Before the flustered Bondas could give an order, overwhelming artillery fire enveloped the White Royal fleet. One after another, wooden warships of the White Royal fleet were blasted to pieces by the terrifying artillery fire of the steel fleets, and sank into the sea. In the sky, the rumbling of fighter engines lingered as supersonic fighters flew over like a flock of birds. When the supersonic fighters flew over the White Royal fleet like dragons, they fired air-to-surface laser-guided missiles barreling towards the legendary warship, the White Steel warship. The mission of the supersonic fighters was to destroy the White Royal fleet's only legendary warship, the White Steel warship. As for the wooden warships, any destroyer could easily destroy them. Heavenly water curtain! Lance looked at the laser-guided missiles flying down from the sky, then pulled out the god armament sword of the sea given to him by the goddess of the sea Aronia and pointed at the sky. Countless amounts of seawater rose from the sea and turned into a huge azure water screen that was more than 10 meters thick, blocking the sky. As soon as the numerous laser-guided missiles flew into the azure water curtain, they were immediately entangled by the azure water curtain, unable to move or self-destruct. In the sky, the supersonic fighter jets circled around the White Steel battleship. Their cannons roared and countless shells rained down on Lance. No matter how hard the supersonic fighter jets shot, they were unable to penetrate the azure water curtain. The ocean was the place with the densest concentration of water elements, and the most powerful water element magic cast here. Lance cast water curtain to block the attack of the supersonic fighters, But the rest of the White Royal fleet turned into dazzling fireballs and sank into the sea. Damned beast! Under Bonda's pained gaze, the more than 100 warships sank, not giving him any leeway to give exquisite command. On the Black Steel battleship, Faldina sighed slightly. Amazing! The White Royal fleet is the most powerful fleet among the coastal states of the Western Sea. For such a fleet to disappear just like that, it's really amazing. Grace watched as the White Royal fleet was smashed by the bombardment of Yang Feng's steel fleet, and her heart was filled with shock. What a powerful fleet! It's really terrifying. As a Naga Valkyrie from another plane, Grace had experienced countless battles. It was the first time she had seen such an asymmetric attack. Even in Grace's eyes, the White Royal fleet was a very powerful fleet. Even the merfolk would have to pay a hefty price if they wanted to annihilate such a well-equipped, numerous and experienced fleet. Now the White Royal fleet was destroyed before it even had a chance to fight Yang Feng's steel fleet. This kind of battle made Grace shudder with fear. After the warships around the steel fleet annihilated the remaining warships of the White Royal fleet, countless artilleries barreled towards the White Steel warship. A sky-blotting rain of bullets engulfed the White Steel warship like a meteor shower. Lance desperately operated the level 4 legend rank spell Water Curtain Sky. The god armament Sword of the Sea in his hand, like a huge monster, frantically devoured his power, turning his face pale. Bondas gritted his teeth and barked, "Retreat!" The White Steel warship quickly turned around and fled in the direction from which it came. That aircraft carrier group chased closely behind, bombarding the White Steel battleship crazily. "I'm sorry, General Bondas, but I can't hold on any longer. I'm really sorry." Lance gritted his teeth, blurred into motion and jumped into the sea, no longer guarding the White Steel warship. After all, the power of a god armament wasn't infinite. Even if a god obediently acted as a target, they would still be smashed to pieces by the firepower of a steel fleet. "No! Lance, you despicable traitor!" Bondas' expression changed drastically, and he let out an extremely shrill scream before jumping into the ocean as well. A dense barrage of artillery shells enveloped the White Steel warship. Boom! 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 The White Steel warship was bombarded by hundreds of large-caliber artillery shells. Steel splattered and disintegrated, and then sank into the sea along with dense smoke and fire. Along with the sinking of the White Steel warship, the entire White Steel fleet was annihilated by Yang Feng's Third Steel Fleet. Yang Feng's Third Steel Fleet didn't suffer any casualties. This was the huge gap of several eras in technology. When Lance jumped into the sea, the god armament Sword of the Sea in his hand immediately radiated faint blue light and absorbed the air in the seawater into his body. It allowed him to breathe freely in the sea. From the sea, 3 groups of more than 100,000 sea hunters crazily swam this way at an astonishing speed. When Lance saw the dense swarm of sea hunters, his face changed dramatically, and he crushed a blue pearl and shouted, "Great goddess of the sea Aronia, please save me." Streams of divine power gushed out of the blue pearl and condensed in the sea to form a beautiful woman the size of a palm. She had ocean blue hair, skin as translucent as jade, and her entire body was enveloped in a holy, great, and holy aura. This stunning woman was the goddess of the sea Aronia. When the goddess of the sea Aronia appeared, she swept Lance with her beautiful eyes, and disappointment streaked past them. She sighed slightly, merged into the water and disappeared. In the next moment, a wave rose in front of the Black Steel warship, and the figure of the goddess of the sea Aronia emerged. "Lowly mortal, I am the goddess of the sea Aronia. Get your fleet out of the way and let my god's darling enter the Golden Strait. Otherwise, I will inflict divine punishment on you." When the goddess of the sea Aronia appeared on the Black Steel warship, she looked at Yang Feng with her golden eyes, and vast and terrifying might spread from her, and envelop the Black Steel warship. She uttered in an aloof tone, "Under the pressure of the divine might, except for Yang Feng and Grace, everyone else on the Black Steel warship felt suffocated. Blessed by the goddess of Nagas Daphne, Grace could not be affected by any divine might. Sitting in the luxurious litter with Arlena in one hand, Yang Feng looked at the goddess of the sea Aronia and said with a cold smile, "Goddess Aronia, you don't have to pretend anymore. After seeing my subordinates, you should understand where I come from." You didn't even send an avatar but just a projection, and you want to order me around? You're looking down on me too much." Shock flashed in Grace's beautiful eyes, and she stared at Yang Feng dumbfounded. He dares to speak to the goddess like that. Gods were supreme beings on the Feisua plane. Even a feeble divine force rank god was much more noble than the kings of many states. Even the emperors of the 4 great empires had to remain humble and lower their noble heads in front of a true god. Any believer of the goddess of the sea who heard Yang Feng speak to the goddess of the sea Aronia in such a manner would go crazy and attack the heretic. The goddess of the sea Aronia frowned slightly and said, "When the planar tide arrives, anything and everything will jump out. Believe it or not, I can squash an ant like you to death before the planar tide arrives." Yang Feng smiled faintly and said full of confidence, "I believe it. Before the planar tide arrives, you might be able to kill me with a look. But now you can't." The goddess of the sea Aronia spoke in an unquestionable tone. "The god's darling I fancy must enter the Golden Strait." Yang Feng said with a smile, "I opened this mountain and planted this tree. If you want to pass by, you have to pay a toll. 30,000 standard divine force crystals for a spot to enter the Golden Strait. Otherwise, please tear apart the line of defense I set up and kill your way in." The goddess of the sea Aronia frowned slightly and stared coldly at Yang Feng. Chapter 432. The goddess of the sea Aronia said faintly, "I'll think about it and tear apart your defenses. Destroy all your golems and storm the Golden Strait." With that, the projection of the goddess of the sea Aronia collapsed in front of Yang Feng. An azure ray of light rose from the sea and swept Lance away. All of a sudden dark clouds gathered in the sky, rolling and rolling. A strong wind blew, and a series of incomparably violent tornadoes suddenly formed. Clearly, the goddess of the sea Aronia was enraged by Yang Feng. That incomparably violent tornado had yet to completely form when a blue light shone on it. The incomparably violent tornado immediately collapsed and disappeared. A voice full of anger sounded in the sea, "Daphne, it's you." There was no response in the sea. After the steel fleet dispatched by Yang Feng destroyed the White Royal Fleet, it continued to move forward, expanding its range of movement. In front of the black steel warship, waves churned from time to time, and one steel fleet after another rose from the sea, formed one steel fleet after another, and sailed into the distance. The 20 aircraft carrier battle groups quickly turned into 30 aircraft carrier battle groups, and in that area of the sea, huge steel battleships could be seen everywhere. Wherever the reconnaissance aircraft released by the aircraft carrier battle group passed, it was as if the fog of war had been pushed aside, appearing on the holographic projection. Not long after, a huge battleship appeared on the holographic projector. When she saw the huge warship, Faldina's beautiful eyes congealed, and she said solemnly, "This is Elgert, a human legend rank hero who rose to prominence during the Democalypse. He is very strong, and he has a holy flame sword in his hand. He once killed an abyssal fiend lord." Demigod rank abyssal fiend barons were terrifyingly strong. They weren't existences that ordinary human legend rank powerhouses could contend against. However, if the human legend rank powerhouse had a god armament rank treasure and used some tactics, then it wasn't impossible to kill an abyssal fiend baron. Yang Feng said indifferently, "Then let's get rid of him." In the sea, on a battleship that was 80 meters long, stood a tall and sturdy legendary hero Elgert, who carried the divine artifact flaming sword on his back. On Elgert's chest, there was a black necklace, and an incomparably old voice came out. "Elgert, once you reach the Golden Strait, you must keep a low profile. In the Golden Strait, there were bound to be countless gods' darlings, gods chosen, and even gods' incarnations in true bodies that would descend there and head for the Golden Plains. Only when they kill each other and the situation falls into chaos will you have a chance to obtain the Apple of Wisdom." Elgert said confidently, "I know. As long as I have your help, that Apple of Wisdom will definitely belong to me." The old voice came from the black necklace again. "Remember your vow. When you become a true god, you must resurrect me." Elgert's eyes were burning with the flames of ambition, and he said resolutely, "Of course I will definitely become a god, a true god. I opened this mountain and planted this tree. If you want to pass by, You have to pay for the passage. 30,000 standard divine force crystals for a quota to enter the Golden Strait. There are a total of 8 quotas to enter the Golden Strait. If you don't have the money, then get lost. Otherwise, we will regard you as an enemy and sink you. An overbearing and tremendous voice rang in the sea. When the voice sounded, the 17th Steel Fleet appeared on the horizon and surged over with biting cold killing intent. Stupefied, Elgard looked at the dense steel fleet and asked, "Teacher, who are those people?" The black gem in the center of the black necklace flickered and formed an eye that looked at the steel fleet, and the eye flickered with astonishment. "I don't know. I've never seen them before." If you don't respond for more than 3 seconds, you will be regarded as an enemy. Attack! That domineering voice sounded again, and the frigates, destroyers, and other warships of the carrier battle group instantly fired their cannons, sweeping towards the battleship. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the warship was shrouded by countless shellfire, shattered, and sank to the bottom of the sea. Elgard drew the god armament Holy Flame Sword, covered himself with a magic shield, sank to the bottom of the sea, and quickly swam towards the steel fleet. As long as he got close to the steel fleet, he could kill everyone aboard the steel fleet by himself. Not long after Elgard entered the sea, a large group of ocean hunters formed a school of fish and immediately pounced towards him. Elgard's face fell, and he frantically swam towards the surface of the sea. In the sea, the flame domain that he cultivated painstakingly was of no use. The speed of the frightening shoal of sea hunters was too terrifying. Within a few breaths of time, they appeared in front of Elgard and pounced towards him. Elgard roared and struggled desperately. After just a dozen seconds, he turned into a pile of bones, leaving only the god armament Holy Flame Sword and the strange black necklace. If it was on land, Elgard would be a first-rate expert. With the god armament Holy Flame Sword, he could even contend against Starry Sky Warlock rank experts head-on. But in the ocean, he didn't even get to display a tenth of his abilities. He was killed by the ocean hunters in a single exchange. Before long, 2 sea hunters jumped onto the black steel warship and offered the god armament Holy Flame Sword and the strange black necklace to Yang Feng. So this is a god armament. Yang Feng grabbed the god armament Holy Flame Sword and looked at it curiously. According to the Zhangji Plains secret treasure classification, god armaments were level 6 secret treasures or above. Moreover, in Plains with Gods, the god armaments used by the gods contain various laws, which was why they could exert such terrifying might. If the god armament Holy Flame Sword fell into the Zhangji Plain, it would be a treasure that many Moonlight Warlocks would fight over. Level 6 secret treasures and above were very precious. Except for generals of the Great Cloud Dynasty, true disciples of the 10 Great Sects, and Moonlight Warlocks of some great sects, many rogue Moonlight Warlocks didn't even have a level 6 secret treasure. Yang Feng poured life force into the Holy Flame Sword. The Holy Flame Sword flashed, and flames instantly enveloped the sword and emitted frightening fluctuations of power. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a touch of admiration. What an amazing sword, worthy of being a god armament. It's much stronger than the weapons I used before. Yang Feng could clearly perceive that when he held the Holy Flame Sword, he could even cast a level 5 fire attribute spell. Furthermore, the Sword of Flames was a godly weapon without an owner. Anyone could use it directly, so it was perfect for him. Yang Feng swept the black necklace in his hand with a glance and said lightly, "What should I do with you next?" An incomparably old voice came from the black necklace. "I am Vega, the god of fire. I have countless knowledge and experience. As long as you swear to fully resurrect me, in that case, I'm willing to become your master and guide you on how to become a god." Yang Feng showed a strange smile and said, "God of fire Vega? You're a god? That can't be right. An ancient devil is your real identity." The incomparably old voice came from the black necklace, and it didn't waver in the slightest. "No, you have to believe me. I really am Vega." Yang Feng said lightly, "I am a human warlock from the Zhangji Plain, and I'm proficient in demonology. This black necklace is not a treasure for storing the soul of a god, but a sealing gem for sealing the soul of a devil." The incomparably old voice suddenly paused, and then changed into a seductive and charming voice. "That's right, I am an ancient devil, and a beautiful female devil marquis at that. Human warlock, if you let me out, I will offer you all my knowledge and power, and then be your little slave girl and assist you in becoming a powerful bright world warlock. Yang Feng's eyes flickered with a cold light, and he operated a secret method recorded in the primal chaos imperishable body. His right hand was enveloped in primal chaos light, and he pointed at the gem. Ah, what do you want? It hurts. Stop. Don't you want my knowledge? My knowledge is enough for you to promote to a bright world warlock. Even if it's an infinity warlock, there's still a chance. From the gem came a hideous and painful roar that sounded like a man's. Yang Feng smiled coldly, unmoved. Ancient devils are experts at playing with people's souls. They're extremely cunning. I admit that in terms of scheming, I can't beat you cunning old devils. Therefore, although it's a bit of a waste, but please go to hell. Miserable wails came from the black necklace. No matter how the archdevil in the necklace threatened and tempted Yang Feng, he didn't waver. Before long, the black gem finally turned into a resplendent soul gem. Grace watched the scene of Yang Feng destroying the ancient devil, and her heart shook. What a scary man! The ancient devil's promise could even tempt gods. Yet Yang Feng didn't hesitate to kill his soul. Grace was very impressed by his steel-like willpower. If it were her, she wouldn't have been able to resist the temptation of the ancient devil. Chapter 433. In the sea leading to the Golden Strait, a 100-meter-long warship was speeding towards the Golden Strait. A steel carrier group suddenly appeared on the warship, and countless artillery fire enveloped the warship in a flash and tore it to pieces. A white light flew out of the warship and fled in a sorry state. In another part of the sea, a warship more than 80 meters long was speeding towards the Golden Strait. A steel carrier group appeared in front of the warship, and countless artillery fire rumbled and blasted the warship to pieces. This scene played out continuously in the East Sea. Warships eager to obtain the Apple of Wisdom had just appeared in the East Sea, when they were torn to pieces by Yang Feng's steel carrier group. The ever-increasing fleet of aircraft carriers spread across the East China Sea, intercepting countless forces that yearned for the Apple of Wisdom in a domineering manner. Some of the Feisua Plains powerhouses who had their warships blasted to pieces by the steel carrier group chose to give up, while others chose to linger outside the sphere of influence of the steel carrier group, and even formed alliances. With the passage of time under the pressure of the steel carrier group, the alliances formed in the East Sea fell into chaos. Wherever the steel carrier group passed, they would flee, not daring to fight the steel carrier group. The legend-ranked powerhouses cultivated by the hidden forces of the Feisua Plain were waiting for an opportunity, waiting for the most powerful force to arrive. A few days later, a 100-meter-long white dragon exuding the might of an ancient dragon flew over from afar. There was a man and a woman standing on the white dragon. One of them had a head of dazzling golden hair, and a pair of golden eyes that were filled with majesty. He was an incredibly handsome man, as if he was born to rule. The other person had silver hair, a pair of silver eyes, and skin that was as fair as snow. She had a cold expression and was filled with a mysterious aura. Her figure was curvaceous and perfectly proportioned. She was a peerlessly beautiful woman. The powerhouses of the country of dragons are here. Those are the geniuses of the country of dragons. Shanair of the Gold Dragon Clan and Cecilia of the Silver Dragon Clan. The experts wandering around the steel carrier group were powerhouses with great origins. Many legend-ranked powerhouses had gods or powerful existences comparable to gods standing behind them. Under the guidance of those powerful beings, they also recognized the two peerless geniuses from the country of dragons. 4 men and 1 woman, 5 human legend-ranked powerhouses stood on a huge lotus leaf, coldly looking at the 3 powerhouses from the country of dragons. The scarred man in the lead asked in a deep voice, "Do you think they'll go to the Black Dragon country's seas?" The knife-scarred man was Gardner, a human legendary hero who rose to power during the demon disaster and killed countless abyssal demons. When the planar tide arrived, abyssal fiends swept through the entire Feisua Plain. In the fierce battle against the abyssal fiends, countless legendary human heroes emerged from hidden corners and stepped onto the stage of history. No one knew which powerful existence stood behind those legendary heroes. Maybe it was a god, maybe it was a demon, maybe it was a devil. A handsome young man with blonde hair and blue eyes wearing a black knight suit said with a smile, "The dragons of the country of dragons are all arrogant and conceited. I bet they will definitely clash with the Black Dragon country's steel warships." This man in a black knight suit was Earl Tenney, a human legendary hero who rose to power during the demon disaster. During the several years of the demon disaster, by slaying countless abyssal demons, he obtained an aristocratic fief as a hereditary peer earl of the kingdom. The other three legend-rank powerhouses nodded and looked at the three powerhouses from the country of dragons. The white dragon exuding ancient dragon might descended from the sky and accurately stopped at the edge of the steel fleet's perimeter. Shanair raised his voice, and his dignified voice echoed in the sea. "I am Shanair from the country of dragons. Get out of the way, we're going to enter the Golden Strait." Everyone's eyes were focused on the steel fleet in the sea. Scout eagles, mage eyes, fiend eyes, magic spine, crystal balls. At the edge of the steel fleet's perimeter, different legend-rank powerhouses cast various spells and stared at the steel fleet's reaction. The country of dragons was one of the most powerful forces on the Feisua plain. Disregarding the power of gods, the dragons and dragonborn in the country of dragons could easily destroy the four empires. Even on the Feisua plain, the number of dragon divine system was too small. However, no one dared to underestimate their fighting strength. Even the most powerful Xalia divine system and Titan divine system weren't willing to have a terrifying enemy like the dragon divine system. "This mountain is mine, this tree is planted by me. If you want to pass by, leave behind a toll. 30,000 standard divine force crystals for a spot to enter the Golden Strait. There are a total of 8 spots to enter the Golden Strait. If you don't have the money, get lost. Otherwise, we'll regard you as an enemy and wipe you out." An overbearing voice came from the sea and reverberated in the sea. Countless supersonic fighters roared and flew over. Starry Sky Rippers, Space Disruptors, and other main battle robots also flew into the air, forming a three-dimensional battle group that combined the sea, land, and air forces as they closed in. Hearing the tyrannical reply of the Black Dragon country, gazes of schadenfreude focused on Shanair and his party. Shanair's complexion turned ashen. Looking at the various battle robots in the distance, his eyes almost spurted fire. He was a gold dragon genius since childhood. His father was an archaic dragon, and he had archaic dragon bloodline inside him. By virtue of his noble and formidable bloodline power, he even defeated many Starry Sky Warlock-ranked dragon elders of his race. With his noble identity and formidable strength, no matter where he went, Shanair was the focus of attention. No one dared to disobey his words. Now, someone told him to fuck off, which was simply an insult to him. "Damn human ant. Let me destroy the golem you're so proud of." A cold glint flashed past Shanair's eyes, and he spat out countless mysterious dragon words and pointed at the sky. A vast amount of fearsome fire elemental particles filled the sky and gathered into a roiling cloud of fire. Forbidden spell. He's going to cast a forbidden spell. That's a large-scale forbidden spell. When the surrounding experts saw this scene, their eyes flashed with a peculiar glint. On the Feisua plain, large-scale meteorological spells cast by human warlocks were also known as forbidden spells. Once a forbidden spell was cast, tens of thousands of human warriors would die. Therefore, on the Feisua plain, this spell was forbidden by the gods. Once anyone used a forbidden spell, the gods had the right to kill them. Even if Shanair was a dragon genius with archaic dragon bloodline, but once he violated this taboo, any human god could kill him. The dragons, who had always been protective of their people, wouldn't retaliate. On the Feisua plain, the two human divine systems and the human neutral gods were still the most powerful. However, the forbidden spell was only limited to internal use. Yangfeng's identity had been exposed, and many people already knew that he came from the Zhangji plain, where human warlocks dominated everything. Even if Shanair used a forbidden spell on Yangfeng, no one would stop him, let alone a god who would personally kill him. Clouds of fire churned in the sky. As if a hornet's nest had been poked, thousands of Starry Sky Rippers, Space Infectors, and other battle robots quickly flew this way. The numerous destroyers and cruisers loaded with large-caliber railguns, positron cannons, Large-caliber heavy cannons, machine cannons, and other artillery turned into fearsome curtains of light barreling towards Shanair and the other experts of the three dragon countries. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Annihilate the enemy! Annihilate them! Loud and clear alarms reverberated in the sea. Like a pack of wolves, the 10 steel fleets roaming in the vicinity pounced towards this area. In the ocean, countless ocean hunters swarmed over like a pack of wolves. The complexion of the ancient white dragon suddenly changed dramatically, and it uttered countless words in dragon language. In a flash, frightening demigod rank might erupted, magic radiance shone, and a huge rock wall formed in front of it. The cannons bombarded the huge rock wall like a curtain of light, and in just 3 seconds, the huge rock wall that was tens of meters tall was torn apart. A fearsome curtain of light engulfed the 3 experts of the dragon country in a flash. Shanair, Cecilia, run! The ancient white dragon issued a heaven-shaking roar. Enveloped by magic shields, it stood upright and blocked in front of the 2 dragon geniuses, Shanair and Cecilia. A rain of light slammed into the magic shields. After just 1 second, the magic shields collapsed. Railgun cannons, positron cannons, machine cannons, and other artillery bombarded the ancient white dragon and blasted him into a huge sieve. When Shanair saw this, his face turned pale. Unable to believe his eyes, he cried out miserably, "Uncle Anta!" Anta was an ancient white dragon with a frightening starry sky warlock rank cultivation base. Yet such a powerful ancient white dragon couldn't even last a second in the face of countless artillery fire. This was far beyond Shanair's expectations. He didn't expect the steel fleet to be so terrifying and powerful. Chapter 434. Without the intervention of a god, a starry sky warlock rank ancient dragon could easily destroy a human kingdom. Without the intervention of a god, it could easily destroy a human kingdom. Shanair and Cecilia were also peerless geniuses who could contend against starry sky warlock rank dragons. 3 starry sky warlock rank experts of the country of dragons. This was the source of Shanair's confidence. Now that the starry sky warlock rank ancient white dragon was seriously injured by the steel fleet, the peerless gold dragon genius Shanair trembled and became dumbstruck. He realized how powerful his enemy was. In the sky, the starry sky rippers tore through the starry sky at Mach 10 speed, and appeared in front of the powerhouses of the 3 dragon countries in an instant. Their mechanical eyes flashed with cold red light, and they launched an attack. At this moment, Cecilia, who has been watching quietly from the sidelines, opened her cherry lips and said loudly, "We are willing to surrender and pay the ransom." Almost at the same time, the super high-frequency oscillation blades in the hands of the starry sky rippers stopped at the vital points of the ancient white dragon. If Cecilia had been a step slower, the ancient white dragon would have been chopped into pieces and turned into a corpse. The countless beams of light shooting out from the fleet also stopped in an instant. When the countless beams of light disappeared, the sieve-like bloody holes on the ancient white dragon Anta healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The resilience of starry sky warlock rank ancient dragons was terrifying. If it wasn't for the sake of protecting Shanair and Cecilia, the 2 peerless geniuses of the country of dragons, Anta wouldn't have been so easily injured. As long as he flew, he could avoid most of the attacks. The figure of a starry sky ripper blurred, and it appeared in front of Cecilia in the blink of an eye and said coldly in a synthesized voice, 3,000 standard divine force crystals. Here's your ransom. Shanair's heart shook. So fast. The starry sky ripper moved much faster than Shanair. Without using spatial spells, Shanair's movement speed couldn't compare to that of the starry sky rippers. At the sight of the thousands of starry sky rippers flying towards him, Shanair's scalp went numb. He spat out a mouthful of blood, endured the pain of the backlash, and cancelled the forbidden spell. Cecilia waved her lily-white hand, and a space ring flew into the starry sky ripper's mechanical arm. Here are 33,000 divine force crystals. I want a spot to enter the golden strait. Shanair's gaze focused on Cecilia with shock in his eyes. He did not expect Cecilia to be able to take out 33,000 standard units of divine power crystals. This meant that there was a dragon god standing behind Cecilia in the country of dragons. The mechanical arm of the starry sky ripper grabbed the interspatial ring and suddenly moved, flying towards the black steel warship at a terrifying speed of Mach 10. The experts from the country of dragons lost. What a terrifying steel fleet! The expressions of the legendary powerhouses who were surrounding the perimeter and trying to fish in troubled waters changed drastically when they saw this. The three dragon powerhouses of the country of dragons possessed demigod-rank battle prowess. The fact that the three powerhouses were easily defeated by the steel fleet made the legendary powerhouses realize the power of the aircraft carrier battle group. Aboard the black steel warship, Yang Feng received the space ring. With a thought, divine force crystals filled with divine force appeared in his hand. Looking at the divine force crystals, Yang Feng showed a smile. Divine force crystals were very precious. A saint-level believer could only condense a single divine power crystal after a year of devout faith. The Morn's Empire had a large population, yet the radiant primary god of the Zalia divine system could only get a little over 1,000 divine force crystals a year. Divine force crystals were a necessary material for building a divine country, upgrading godhead, condensing a divine avatar, and casting divine spells. If a strong divine force rank god didn't have enough divine force crystals, they wouldn't be able to compare to an infinity warlock. But if a strong divine force rank god had enough divine force crystals, they could beat up two ordinary infinity warlocks. After every war between the gods, they would invariably stop fighting for hundreds or even thousands of years in order to accumulate enough divine power crystals. Among gods, divine force crystals were the most common currency, second only to soul stones. If Yang Feng's avatar wanted to become a god on the Feisua plane in the future, divine force crystals were indispensable. A starry sky ripper descended from the sky and landed in front of Cecilia. Very good. Please come with me. The rest of you leave at once. Cecilia's figure fluttered, and she jumped onto the back of the starry sky ripper. With the roar of an engine, the starry sky ripper flew towards the black steel warship. Anta took a deep look at Cecilia and said solemnly, "Let's go." A gloomy expression on his face, Chenair gnashed his teeth and stared deeply into the distance. Filled with humiliation, he transformed into a gold dragon exuding a fearsome aura and flew into the distance. They even dared to make a move against the country of dragons. How audacious! The legend rank experts outside the range of the steel fleet were filled with shock when they saw this scene. The country of dragons was one of the strongest forces on the Feisua plain, and no one dared to offend it lightly. Without hesitation, the steel fleet seriously injured the ancient white dragon and almost killed the three powerhouses of the country of dragons. This decisive stance showed everyone Yang Feng's determination to defend the sea. As soon as Cecilia boarded the black steel warship, she bowed to Yang Feng and salute. "Greetings, Your Majesty Ian." No matter how proud Cecilia was as a dragon, she knew that in front of the young man in front of her, she couldn't be proud at all, because the man in front of her possessed power that even the gods feared. Yang Feng pointed and said with a smile, "Sit down." Cecilia sat down, and her gaze fell on the lifelike holographic projection covering the entire sea, and her beautiful eyes shimmered with astonishment. What an amazing spell! That's a human warlock from a legendary plane for you. The colossal dragon race was incomparably arrogant, and they looked down on those weak humans. Only the Zhangji Plains human warlocks could win their respect, because the Zhangji Plains human warlocks were strong enough. Among the 8 warlock dynasties, even during the era of the Dawn dynasty, they still suppressed everything and controlled countless planes. The dragons of the Feisua plain were well aware of the strength and terror of the Zhangji Plains human warlocks, who were frightening existences that could rival gods and demons. A warship, which looked like it was made of countless skulls, was shrouded in a thick layer of demonic fog, and exuded dense ghostly qi, sailed over from afar. Aboard the warship stood one abyssal fiend after another, and there were even 6 abyssal fiend barons. The abyssal fiends are here. They're here as well. When the human legend rank experts saw the 6 abyssal fiend barons, their countenance changed greatly, and they quickly fled in different directions, making way for the abyssal fiend fleet. Shortly after the abyssal fiend fleet appeared, a human fleet with 12 legendary warships as the core and 1,100-meter-long warships as the wings sailed over from afar. The Morn's Empire's fleet. They're here as well. When the human legend rank experts saw the 12 legendary warships, their eyes lit up, and they discussed excitedly. The Morans Empire was one of the 4 empires. Behind this huge human empire stood one of the 2 strongest divine systems of the Feisua Plain, the Xalia divine system. Even the Dragon divine system was far from being a match for the Xalia divine system. The human legend rank powerhouses wanted to see if the proud divine chosen of the Xalia divine system would clash head-on with Yangfeng's steel fleets. After a while, a human fleet consisting of 8 legendary battleships and 1,000 main battleships also appeared in this sea region. The Titan Empire's fleet. They're here as well. That's the Titan Empire's legendary warship, the Rushing Thunder warship. They actually set out. Excited voices sounded, and the human legend rank experts became even more expectant. Only when the situation became chaotic would they have a chance to sneak into the Golden Strait. 3 huge fleets capable of easily crushing a coastal state and tearing apart the East Sea's 3 pirate kings stopped outside the cordon of the Steel Fleet, confronting each other. Not long after, a huge legendary warship refined from the bones of an unknown giant extraordinary life form sailed over from afar. Along with the skeleton warship, there was also a wonderful elven legendary warship covered in all kinds of extraordinary plants and trees. The Beastman Empire and the Elven Empire have joined forces. That's right. In terms of sea power, the Morans Empire and the Titan Empire are the strongest. When the legend rank experts saw the skeleton warship and the elven warship, their eyes lit up and they uttered excitedly. The arrival of the fleets signified that the top forces of the Feisua Plain had gathered together to face Yangfeng's seemingly invincible mechanical legion. In that area of the sea, waves surged, and a huge dragon whale with a body length of more than 5,000 meters soared out of the sea. On the back of that huge dragon whale stood a beautiful mermaid with snow-white skin, a pair of big and bright eyes, long purple hair, and exquisite facial features. She was holding a trident in her hand. She was a beautiful mermaid girl with the lower body of a fish and the upper body of a voluptuous woman. She had snow-white skin, a pair of big and bright eyes, long purple hair, and exquisite facial features. Chapter 435. Behind the mermaid girl stood 20 burly, 10-meter-tall whaleman warriors. The 20 Whale Clan warriors all exuded a terrifying aura comparable to a legend-rank powerhouse. Next to the huge dragon whale, the waves churned and countless merfolk warriors poured out of the waves, stood on the surface of the sea, and stared coldly at the surrounding powerhouses. Mermaid Empress Brihea. That's the most beautiful mermaid empress. She really deserves her reputation. When the human race legend-rank powerhouses who had hidden far away saw that beautiful mermaid girl, their eyes flashed with a hint of amazement. In this part of the sea there were many top beauties, but in terms of beauty and temperament alone, no one could compare to the mermaid Empress Brihea. Even the top elven beauties were slightly inferior to her. As if they had a tacit understanding, the 5 forces appeared in different places and confronted each other. The abyssal fiends were originally the mortal enemies of the Feisua Plains forces, but now everyone turned a blind eye to them. All eyes were focused on the sea that seemed to be filled with steel fleets. Countless warships separated from the Morans Empire, and the legendary warship Windmark, covered in magic sails and engraved with countless mysterious runes, swam towards the sea where the steel fleets were located. The legendary warship Windmark was the fastest legendary warship on the Feisua Plain. Aboard the Windmark, an old man dressed in an archbishop's robe said in a dignified voice, "Dukian, I am the Vice Pope of the Radiant Temple Kabum. I order you to open this route and let the Morans Empire's fleet enter. Otherwise, I'll deprive you of your dukedom and all your fiefs in the Morans Empire. At the same time, you'll become a mortal enemy of the Morans Empire. I opened this mountain and planted this tree. If you want to pass by, you have to pay for the passage. 30,000 standard divine force crystals for a quota to enter the Golden Strait. There are a total of 7 quotas to enter the Golden Strait. If you don't have the money, get lost. Otherwise, we'll regard you as an enemy and eliminate you." A loud sound came from the sea, and a number of aircraft carrier battle groups that were cruising in the nearby sea quickly swam towards this direction. A burly bear-like man, wearing silver armor and standing in the Titan Empire, sneered. "Haha, Kabam, the dukes of your Morance Empire don't seem to listen to you." Kabam said flatly, "From now on, he is no longer a duke of the Morance Empire. The great Lord God will send an angel to purify this incomparably evil heretic." Kabam silently chanted an incantation and pointed a scepter at the sky. In the sky, an incomparably sacred image of a divine nation with countless luxurious palaces, verdant hills, clear waters, and beautiful scenery suddenly appeared. A vast, sacred, and mighty aura slowly spread out from the phantom of the divine kingdom. An incomparably sacred ray of light shot out from the divine nation phantom and streaked across the void. A gate of light made of pure light suddenly appeared in the void. A dense crowd of beautiful angels flew out of the gate of light and stood proudly in the sky. Every beautiful angel exuded a terrifying aura comparable to the peak of the legendary realm. Angel Legion. Xalia Divine Systems Angel Legion. Those are radiant angels. The most powerful radiant angels. The faces of the surrounding legend rank powerhouses changed drastically when they saw the angels emerging from the divine kingdom's projection. Angel legions were the most powerful legions of the Xalia Divine Systems gods. The most powerful angels were even stronger than many gods. Radiant primary god Prados had 3 blazing angels of the highest rank under his command. Each of the 3 blazing angels had killed an intermediate divine force rank god with their god armaments. In the Xalia Divine System, some feeble divine force rank gods had angels guarding them that were even more powerful than themselves. On the Fesua Plain, during the long years of War of the Gods, angel legions raised countless carnage wherever they went. Countless powerhouses fell at the hands of the powerful angel legions. Is the era of War of the Gods coming? Ever since the gods signed the Treaty of the Gods, there was no trace of angel legions in the secular world. Now, when the Fesua Plain's legend-rank powerhouses saw angel legions, they felt their blood run cold. In times of peace, legend-rank powerhouses were the strongest fighting force of the major forces. However, in the Battle of the Gods, legendary powerhouses were merely soldiers and cannon fodder. In the divine country of the gods, legend-rank angels were just ordinary soldiers. Angel Legion. The eyes of the bear-like man in silver armor flashed with a dignified glint, and he took out a silver sword and pointed at the sky. A divine country phantom suddenly appeared, and a 9-story tall majestic palace covering an area of who knows how many tens of thousands of kilometers appeared inside the divine country phantom. Inside the majestic 9-story palace, countless male and female warriors were gathered. Each and every one of them was displaying their most exquisite martial skills as they fought against each other. Their martial skills seemed to have been tempered thousands of times. When a human sacred swordsman saw their exquisite martial skills, they would feel ashamed from the bottom of their heart. A golden divine radiance shot out from the temple and landed in the void, forming a golden gate. From the golden gate, heroic and extraordinary warriors exuding frightening fluctuations of power walked out. Brave warriors! Brave warriors of the Titan Empire! Those are the most powerful warriors of the Titan Empire who died and turned into brave warriors. How terrifying! When the surrounding legend-rank powerhouses saw the frightening warriors walk out of the divine country, they inhaled a breath of cold air. The Xalia Divine Systems Angel Legion and the Titan Divine Systems Brave Legion were the 2 most powerful legions of the Fesua Plain. The angels of the Xalia Divine Systems Angel Legion were the most devout believers. After their souls entered the divine country, they would go through all kinds of mysterious and inexplicable changes before finally being reborn as fearless angel warriors without any memories of their death. The Titan Empire's Brave Legion, on the other hand, was formed from the most powerful experts of the Titan Empire who died. After their souls were received into the divine country, they obtained new divine bodies, trained day and night, and fought ceaselessly to become the most powerful warriors. In terms of individual strength alone, the Titan Empire's brave warriors were far stronger than the Angel Legion. However, the Angel Legion was far more numerous than the Brave Legion. In previous battles between Angel Legions and Brave Legions, the odds of victory and defeat were about 70% to 30%. This was because of the 3 radiant blazing angels subordinated to the radiant primary god, the war blazing angels subordinated to the god of war Barrios, and the fire-blazing angels subordinated to the god of fire tames. In the Titan Empire, only the war holy spirits subordinated to the god of war Amigo, the lightning holy spirits subordinated to the strong divine force rank god of thunder Gaba, and the earth holy spirits subordinated to the strong divine force rank goddess of the earth Victoria could contend against them. Only by joining hands could the Beastman divine system and the Elven divine system contend against the Xalia divine system or the Titan divine system. If it wasn't for the fact that the two human divine systems, the Xalia divine system and the Titan divine system, were mortal enemies, the two sides fought endlessly and sowed countless blood feuds. Moreover, there were still the neutral divine system, the dark divine system, the sea divine system, the giant divine system, the dragon divine system, and many other divine systems. There was no room for other non-human divine systems to exist on the Feisua plane. Kabum swept the demonic fleet composed of countless abyssal fiends with his gaze and said faintly, "Ventosi, those damn fiends shouldn't stay here. They should be sent to their deaths." "That's right." The man in silver armor showed a ferocious smile, looked at the abyssal fiends and said coldly, "Fiends, are you going to the sea, or are you going to be killed here?" Led by a beautiful angel with two pairs of wings on the back and a curvaceous figure, a dense crowd of angels blocked the retreat of the abyssal fiend fleet. Led by a handsome and burly brave with a huge dragon spear in hand, 60 brave warriors emerged from the brave legion and blocked the rear of the abyssal fiend fleet. As if overlooking ants, they looked at the abyssal fiends amidst the abyssal fiend fleet. The beautiful and delicate face of the four-winged angel shimmered with cruelty, and she said frigidly, "I am the angel on Sai. You fiends, charge forward. I'll give you 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, you'll die if you don't move." The eyes of an abyssal fiend Baron Rankhorn flickered with a cunning gleam, and he barked, "Gods do not interfere in the affairs of the secular world. This is an agreement between the gods. You angels dare to come to the secular world. Aren't you afraid of the backlash of breaking the agreement of the gods?" It was because the abyssal fiend lords were aware of the agreement of the gods that they exposed their identities and came to the Feisua plane. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dared to appear in front of the gods so easily. "You talk too much nonsense." The beautiful eyes of the four-winged angel shimmered with cruelty. A spatial fluctuation surged, and she disappeared in an instant. Strangely, she appeared behind the abyssal fiend Baron Rankhorn and stabbed the abyssal fiend Baron in the heart with the spear of light in her hand. Demonic Lockchain was a spell developed by the Third Warlock Dynasty, the Transcendent Dynasty, and it was specially used to enslave fiends. Once the soul of an abyssal fiend was bound by the demonic lock chain, it would be unable to betray or disobey the orders of the caster. This was the first time Rick had seen this legendary spell. Yang Feng said coldly, "Do you want to live or die?" Rick's eyes turned and he said respectfully, "I want to live. Master, please cast the demonic lock chain and engrave it on my soul." Yang Feng got up and pointed at Rick's forehead with a finger, and the black chain entered Rick's forehead. Rick was very respectful, and allowed the black chain to enter his forehead. He obediently gave up resisting, and let the black chain wrap around his soul. Yang Feng waved his hand and said coldly, "Stand aside." Rick stood aside respectfully and looked at Yang Feng with a look of awe. "Yes, Master." After subduing the abyssal fiend Rick, Yang Feng's gaze immediately fell on the holographic projection. A trifling fiend was nothing. The Angel Legion and the Saint Legion were the most terrifying enemies. Besides, the experts of the Beastman Empire and the Elven Empire could summon the beast emissaries of the Beastman Divine System, and the Battle Elves of the Elven Divine System at any time. The beast emissaries were the Beastman Divine System's Battle Legion, while the Battle Elves were the Elven Divine System's Battle Legion. In terms of individual strength, the beast emissaries and Battle Elves weren't the slightest bit inferior to angels. However, their numbers were far less than that of the Angel Legion. Moreover, among the beast emissaries and Battle Elves, only two powerhouses could contend against the 5 blazing angels of the Angel Legion. Even so, the strength of the beast emissaries and battle elves shouldn't be underestimated. If it wasn't for the planar tide, the divine legions couldn't exert their full strength, and Yangfeng wouldn't have dared to send countless fleets to seal the entrance to the Golden Strait. I'm willing to pay 30,000 standard divine force crystals. Please let me in, Your Majesty, the great emperor of the Black Dragon country. An expert shrouded in darkness and wearing a cloak came to the edge of the steel fleet, opened his hand and revealed a storage ring. After receiving the storage ring, a starry sky ripper flew back to the black steel warship in the blink of an eye. You come here. Shortly after, a starry sky ripper flew to the side of the expert and said. The expert, shrouded in darkness, blurred into motion, appeared on the starry sky ripper, and had the starry sky ripper carry him to the black steel warship. Although the foundation of the Feisua Plains gods was on the Feisua Plain, but they would also send countless divine legions to attack, preach, and harvest faith force to other low-grade planes. It was very difficult for the true bodies of the gods to descend to a plane other than the Feisua Plain. As such, the divine legions were their strongest subordinates on a punitive expedition to other planes. Each of the divine legions was an elite expert who had gone through countless battles. Their fighting strength could be well imagined. Attack! Destroy them! Kill that wretched human warlock! A cold glint flashed in Avalon's eyes. With a loud roar, his figure flickered slightly, leaving behind countless afterimages as he flew toward a fleet of aircraft carriers like lightning. Boom! 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 Wherever Avalon's figure passed, the dragon spear in his hand constantly flashed, and the starry sky rippers along the way were all shattered and exploded. In midair, it was as if a gorgeous flower had bloomed. As soon as Avalon moved, the heroic spirits of the Martyr's Palace immediately followed behind him and rushed towards the aircraft carrier fleet. The braves of the Martyr Palaces were of various professions, such as priests, wizards, druids, knights, sacred swordsmen, assassins, archers, and so on. The braves possessed demigod-rank battle prowess. After fighting for tens of thousands of years, they not only reached the pinnacle of martial arts, but also improved their tacit understanding in battle. Under Avalon's leadership, the braves could even kill Moonlight Warlock rank existences. The heroes of the Martyr's Palace were like shooting stars as they slaughtered their way into a fleet of aircraft carriers. As soon as the monstrous martyrs got close, the destroyers and cruisers exploded one after another. Onsai led the huge Angel Corps from another direction and attacked another aircraft carrier cluster. The Radiant Angel Legion was proficient in healing, defensive, and buffing spells, and it was very agile in the air. Under Onsai's leadership, once the Radiant Angels were injured by the beams, they immediately retreated, and the stronger angels acted as meat shields in front of them. At the same time, they cast healing spells to heal the injuries of the Radiant Angels. Onsai, who was in the vanguard, was even more astonishingly powerful. Wherever she passed, starry sky rippers would explode and turn into countless components that collapsed in all directions. Only 10 Radiant Angels of the powerful Radiant Angel Legion were blasted to pieces, before the Radiant Angel Legion pounced on a steel fleet. With countless flashes of light, spears of light and arrows of light stabbed into the steel fleet, pierced through the steel fleet's defenses, and blasted the steel fleet apart. Like ferocious beasts, the Beastman emissaries braved the artillery fire, rushed into a steel fleet, and frantically destroyed it. The battle elves unleashed incredible archery skills. Streaks of emerald light shot into the sky, shooting down the supersonic fighters one after another. Chapter 438. The Sea Guards plunged into the sea. Exuding the law of water and wielding blue tridents, the Sea Guards flickered in and out of sight in the sea, and then rushed into the midst of the sea hunters like ghosts. Like large piranhas, countless sea hunters formed a school of fish that could devour everything and pounced on the sea god's guards. A sea guard stabbed forward with the blue trident in their hands. The law of water surged, and a violent whirlpool of water suddenly appeared and swept towards the sea hunters. Large swaths of sea hunters were drawn into the violent whirlpool of water, which contained countless fearsome water blades. With a twist of those terrifying water blades, the sea hunters were shredded into pieces one by one. The sea god's guards were like a sharp knife that pierced into the group of sea hunters and tore open a huge hole. The mermaid Empress Brihea led the merfolk's high priests to cast all kinds of buffs on the sea god's guards, continuously strengthening them. The 5 divine legions charged into the sea under Yang Feng's control from 5 different directions. Explosions rang incessantly among the steel fleets. One by one, the powerful battleships exploded and sank into the sea. In the sky, fighter jets exploded one after another and fell into the sea. Aboard the black steel warship, Faldina frowned, and her beautiful eyes shimmered with worry. Cecilia's gaze shifted slightly and fell on Yang Feng. The gazes of the other 3 powerhouses of unknown origin, aboard the black steel warship also focused on Yang Feng, and flickered with an enigmatic light. Yang Feng glanced at the holographic projection and said with a faint smile, "Interesting. As expected of a divine legion, it's really powerful. Unfortunately, there are still too few of them." In an instant, 20 steel fleets were mobilized and quickly cruised towards the main battlefield. A rain of light fell from the sky and barreled towards the 4 fleets of the Morince Empire, the Titan Empire, the Beastman Empire, and the Elven Empire. Boom! 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 Amid the fearsome rain of light, one after another, the warships of the Morince Empire turned into fireballs and sank into the sea. The non-legendary battleships in the Titan Empire's fleet also turned into fireballs and sank to the bottom of the ocean under the artillery fire. The complexion of Cavril, the leader of the Beastman Empire's fleet, changed, and he silently recited an incantation, took out a huge cyan shield, and threw it into the sky. The huge cyan shield expanded in the wind, and turned into a terrifying shield that was over 100 meters tall. It firmly protected the Beastman Empire's warship. The leader of the Elven Empire, Fran, silently recited an incantation and pointed ahead with the emerald scepter in her hand. A brilliant law of nature surged and formed a huge tree that took root in the sea, absorbed a copious amount of seawater, and blocked in front of the Beastman Empire's fleet. The dense hail of railgun and positron beams slammed into the huge cyan shield like raindrops. The huge cyan shield only lasted for less than 30 seconds before cracking sounds sounded, and a huge crack appeared on it. Even a Moonlight Warlock rank powerhouse with a level 6 secret treasure wouldn't dare to stand still and withstand the bombardment of railgun and positron beams. The huge cyan shield was a demigod-ranked defensive treasure of the Beastman Empire. Yet it could not withstand the almost endless artillery fire. Cavril's face fell and he roared wildly, "Run! Scatter and escape!" The legend-ranked geniuses of the Beastman Empire fled from the warship like raindrops. Boom! With a blare, the huge cyan shield was blown apart, and a fearsome rain of light engulfed the flagship of the Beastman Empire and blasted it apart, and it slowly sank into the sea. The starry sky rippers flying at Mach 10 speed flew out of the clouds in the blink of an eye and pounced towards the legend-ranked powerhouses of the Beastman Empire like grim reapers reaping lives. A burly werewolf legend-rank expert with a pair of wolf ears and a pair of fierce eyes was holding a scimitar in his hand. There was a hurricane badge on his chest that was releasing a hurricane that lifted him into the air. Engines roaring, 6 starry sky rippers slashed towards the werewolf expert from 6 different directions with super high-frequency oscillation blades in their hands. The face of the werewolf expert changed dramatically. In midair, his body twisted slightly, and he brandished the blade in his hand, which turned into 6 blade images that slashed towards the 6 starry sky rippers. After images flashed by, and the werewolf legend-rank powerhouse in midair was torn apart, turning into countless fragments that fell from the sky. When the 8 starry sky rippers pounced, a Lionman legend-rank powerhouse was turned into countless pieces in midair and scattered on the ground. So long as the starry sky rippers pounced on the Beastman legend-rank expert, they would be turned into countless pieces that scattered on the ground. The Beastman legend-rank experts were not good at aerial combat. They could barely fly in the sky by relying on flight treasures. Starry Sky Rippers were speedy battle robots with terrifying fighting strength and fearless of death. In a one-on-one battle, the Beastman legend rank experts may not be their match. Moreover, the Starry Sky Rippers besieged a Beastman legend rank expert in groups of 6 or 8, and the Beastman legend rank expert would be killed in a single exchange. After Cavril destroyed 2 Starry Sky Rippers with a huge wolf tooth club, he saw the legend rank experts of the Beastman Empire turn into pieces and fall from the sky. His eyes widened in anger, and he issued a shrill roar. Stop! Even though Cavril roared wildly, the Starry Sky Rippers still coldly and mechanically killed the Beastman legend rank experts, and a mist of blood fell from the sky. Soon only Cavril remained in the sky, as well as a burly, handsome Lionman expert with short blonde hair and a monarch's aura, and a burly Tigerman expert with a domineering aura and the character king on his forehead. The young Lionman expert was Odino, one of the strongest Lionman geniuses of this generation. The Tigerman expert was Avril, one of the strongest Tigerman geniuses of this generation. These 2 geniuses were God's darlings, blessed by the Beastman divine system's gods. They were far stronger than other powerhouses of the same rank, and could even contend against Starry Sky Warlock rank powerhouses. Although Odino only had a legendary realm cultivation base, his combat power was terrifying. He was clad in black armor with a pair of wings made of magical metal on his back, allowing him to fly freely in the sky. With a great sword in hand, Starry Sky Rippers were chopped into countless pieces in the wake of sword rays. Avril was also wearing a similar golden armor and wielding a large blade. He used a domineering blade technique to cut the Starry Sky Rippers into countless pieces one after another. After all the Beastman legend rank powerhouses in the sky were killed, the Starry Sky Rippers immediately rushed towards Cavril's group of 3. Even though Cavril's group of 3 were comparable to demigod rank powerhouses in terms of battle prowess, but they still felt the pressure increase greatly, and were forced to retreat. By joining forces, the 3 barely resisted the siege of the Starry Sky Rippers coming from all directions. Just as Cavril's group of 3 converged, the countless Starry Sky Rippers suddenly scattered. The muzzles of the 10 steel fleets rushing over from afar flashed, and countless light beams barreled towards Cavril's group of 3. It's over. Cavril's eyes shimmered with despair and regret. If he had known that this would happen, he would never have attacked Yongfeng. At the moment when the light beams were about to devour Cavril's group of 3, a mysterious rune appeared on Odino's forehead. Boundless energy surged out of Odino's body and condensed into a domineering figure with golden eyes in the void, emitting a terrifying pressure. The expert with golden eyes and a pair of lion ears frowned slightly. He stretched his hand out, and the countless light beams distorted and shot in all directions. They couldn't harm the expert in the slightest. When Cavril saw the mysterious powerhouse, his eyes filled with excitement. He knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Greetings, my lord, the great beast god Arketh." The complexion of the always unruly Avril flickered, and he knelt on the ground. "Greetings, my lord, the great beast god Arketh." The lion god Arketh, also known as the beast god Arketh, was the only strong divine force rank god in the Beastman Empire, as well as the sole divine monarch of the Beastman divine system. The beast god Arketh, the strong divine force rank god Arketh. The Beastman divine system's divine monarch actually took action in person. The legend rank powerhouses inhaled a breath of cold air, unable to believe their eyes. Strong divine force rank gods were even more terrifying than infinity warlocks. Even on the Tsangji plane they were bigwigs among bigwigs, terrifying existences at the pinnacle of all life forms. Everyone was shocked that such a big shot had appeared here. Arketh's projection shot Yongfeng an indifferent look and said frigidly, "Petty human warlock. Open the passage and surrender to me. I can forgive your sins. Otherwise, you will suffer eternal pain in the purgatory I set up." Yongfeng suddenly showed a smile and ordered indifferently, "Interesting. Steel fleets 60 to 70 attacked the goddess of the forest Sevilla. In the sea, the 10 steel fleets that have just arrived at the battle zone flashed with countless warships, and shot towards the goddess of the forest Sevilla. Under the bombardment of countless beams, the forest domain of the forest goddess Sevilla suddenly trembled, and countless trees were destroyed, showing signs of collapsing at any time. An enigmatic gleam flashed in the eyes of the goddess of the forest Sevilla, and she sighed. Ian, the Elven Empire is willing to leave this place. Please stop the attack. The words of the goddess of the forest Sevilla have just fallen, when the rain of light shooting towards the forest domain disappeared. The tyrannical battle elves treaded on air and quickly returned to the side of the goddess of the forest domain. Yang Feng's voice came from the endless sea. I don't want to be enemies with the elven gods. Please leave this place. You can withdraw. The goddess of the forest Sevilla glanced at the elven powerhouses, and then looked deeply into the distance. Then her body collapsed and turned into countless rays of light and disappeared. The jade pendant also collapsed in midair. Fran gritted her teeth and said, "Let's go." The battle elves treaded on air and walked into the air. A huge divine country gate appeared in the void, and the battle elves with astonishing battle prowess entered the divine country one by one. With a wave of Fran's lily-white hand, a green leaf suddenly flew out, expanded in the wind, and turned into a 10-meter-long leaf boat. The elves jumped onto the leaf boat and walked into the distance, withdrawing from the fight for the Apple of Wisdom. As soon as the elven powerhouses left, the countless beams originally aimed at the elven powerhouses barreled towards the Morance Empire's fleet. Boom! Boom! Under the bombardment of the countless beams, the warships of the Morance Empire exploded. The remaining 12 legendary warships that rampaged through countless seas were blasted into pieces by the beams of the positron cannons and railgun cannons, and sank into the sea. Before they could engage the enemy, countless naval warriors of the Morance Empire were killed and turned into corpses in the sea. The figures of the Morance Empire's legend-rank powerhouses flickered, and they rushed towards the warship where the Radiant Temple's Vice-Pope Cobham was. No! Along with flashes of light, a handsome legend-rank young man with a magic sword in hand, who looked like he could enchant women with just a glance, issued a shrill scream in the face of the countless beams of light. A ray of light suddenly flashed between the beautiful young man's eyebrows. In the void, it condensed into a stunning beauty wearing a black mesh leather coat. She had dazzling blonde hair and a curvaceous figure. She exuded a coquettish aura from head to toe. This gorgeous woman exuding a coquettish aura was the goddess of joy of the Zalia divine system, Dorothy. She was the daughter of the radiant primary god Prados, and she had a flirtatious and licentious disposition. She liked beautiful boys and girls the most. Stop! As soon as Dorothy's projection appeared, she saw the countless beams of light barreling towards her. She screamed pitifully and raised her lily-white hand, and a pink scarf formed a pink barrier in front of her. Boom! When the rain of light slammed into the pink boundary was blasted apart. In a flash, the frightening rain of light engulfed Dorothy and the beautiful young man behind her. No! Along with Dorothy's shrill scream, the beautiful young man was blasted to pieces in an instant, and turned into countless fragments that scattered on the ground. In addition to the beautiful young man, there were 7 or 8 legend-rank powerhouses in the air that were blasted to pieces by the rain of light and fell into the sea. Face pale, Cobham opened a white barrier filled with endless light with a scepter in hand. It was the level 5 divine spell Radiant Wall. When the rain of light slammed into the Radiant Wall, it set off ripples. Every time Cobham resisted the bombardment of the rain of light, he would cough and spit out a mouthful of blood, and his complexion would turn paler. 20 archbishops of the Radiant Church silently recited an incantation to support the Radiant Wall. Every time Cobham spat blood, they would spit blood as well, and their complexions would turn paler. Onsai frowned slightly and barked, "Avalon, let's go kill Ian together." Onsai's Angel Corps and Avalon's Holy Spirit Corps had already destroyed 2 aircraft carrier battle groups, but if they continued to fight like this, then the fleets of the Morance Empire and the Titan Empire would be torn to pieces by the artillery fire. The geniuses of the 2 empires would have no chance to enter the Golden Plain. The Apple of Wisdom was something that the gods of the Zalia and Titan pantheons were determined to get their hands on. Even the 2 divine legions had been dispatched. Naturally, they wouldn't give up. Okay, Avalon made a prompt decision. With the dragon spear in hand, he trod on air and shot towards Yang Feng. The Saint Legion followed Avalon and shot towards Yang Feng. Onsai, along with the huge Angel Legion, turned into white rays of light and shot towards Yang Feng. Yang Feng sighed slightly and said indifferently, "What a bunch of idiots. Kill them." A rain of light barreled towards the Saint Legion and the Angel Legion. The two legions desperately rushed into the midst of the numerous steel fleets, and were engulfed by the terrifying net of firepower woven by the Level 2 optical computer. At every moment, a large number of angels and demigod-rank holy spirits were blasted to pieces. The tens of thousands of starry sky rippers were like meteors in the rain of light. They formed battle groups and blocked in front of the Holy Spirit Legion and Angel Corps, then fiercely collided with them. Chapter 440. The horde formed by the starry sky rippers revealed their fearsome might. No matter how the two peerless powerhouses Wuxia and Avalon killed, the number of starry sky rippers didn't decrease. Moreover, the starry sky rippers, unafraid of death, slammed into them one after another. Even though they did their best to destroy one starry sky ripper after another, they still couldn't advance an inch. Countless beams of light barreled towards the Angel Legion and the Brave Legion from all directions. An angel's protective magic shield was bombarded by the countless beams of light, and it trembled slightly before directly collapsing. Countless beams of light slammed into her body, causing her body to explode, turning into countless fragments that scattered on the ground. A demigod heroic spirit assassin kept twisting his body, moving in a mysterious trajectory as he dodged one light beam after another. But the beams of light were too dense. As soon as he appeared, the beams of light slammed into him and blasted him apart. A rain of blood rained down from the sky. With every step the Angel Legion and Brave Legion took, a large number of angels and powerful braves would fall from the sky. Advancing almost at the cost of their lives, they looked like huge targets, extremely miserable. Wuxia and Avalon each possessed Moonlight Warlock rank battle prowess, yet they still couldn't break through the siege of the starry sky rippers. When the countless starry sky rippers flew in front of Wuxia and Avalon, they collapsed and turned into countless parts that scattered on the ground. So strong! Those golems are really strong. To be able to fight against 5 divine legions to this extent. Although the casualty ratio between the golems and the Angel Legion is 5:1, and the casualty ratio between the golems and the Brave Legion is as high as 40:1, but they're really strong. To think that there are existences that can contend against divine legions, how fearsome. The legend-rank powerhouses standing outside the perimeter of the Steel Fleet watched the battlefield from afar, their hearts filled with shock. The divine legions were the most powerful warriors of the gods, specialized in suppressing heretics and colonizing other planes. The fact that an angel had emerged from the divine kingdom before the planar tide had arrived was already a remarkable miracle. A heroic spirit walking out of the divine kingdom was enough for the Titan Empire to obtain victory after victory. Now the Angel Corps and the Spirit Corps were fighting to the death. Even Avalon, who was comparable to a god and a legendary hero, was being forced into a difficult situation. One could imagine how terrifying the mechanical army was. Grace looked at the angels and heroic spirits being blasted into sieves on the holographic projector, and her beautiful eyes flashed with shock. So powerful. They can actually block the Divine Legion. What a terrifying mechanical legion. On the Black Steel warship, several strange passengers looked at the falling angels and heroic spirits in the holographic projection with a strange gleam in their eyes. The indifference and schadenfreude in their eyes had completely disappeared. Aboard the Morin's Empire's warship, Cobham struggled to support the level 5 divine spell Radiant Wall, constantly spitting blood, unable to utter a word. Yang Feng had more than 100 steel fleets under his command. 2 of the steel fleets were destroyed by the Angel Legion, the Brave Legion, and the Beast Emissary Legion. The remaining steel fleets rushed over while frantically attacking the Morin's Empire's fleet, the Beastman Empire's fleet, the Angel Legion, and the Brave Legion. A large number of starry sky rippers were locked in combat with the Beast Emissaries. At every moment, many starry sky rippers were destroyed by the Beast Emissaries. Similarly, from time to time, a Beast Emissary would be slain by the starry sky rippers. The radiant primary god Prados was the strongest expert of the Feisua plane, and his strength was unfathomable. In the battle of the gods, not a single god had defeated him in a one-on-one battle. Even the strongest god of war Amigo of the Titan pantheon had been defeated by him. Similarly, the beast god Archith of the Beastman pantheon had been defeated by him in a one-on-one fight. On the Feisua plane, the radiant primary god Pratos was recognized as the god most likely to break through the limit and advance to the mighty divine force rank. Aboard the Black Steel warship, when Yangfeng saw the projection of the radiant primary god Pratos, his eyes narrowed. Radiant primary god Pratos. The radiant primary god Pratos was a pinnacle strong divine force rank existence. Even infinity warlocks were not his opponent. On the Feisua plane, even a warlock monarch rank powerhouse might not be his opponent. Even if such a fearsome powerhouse only used pinnacle demigod rank power, he would still be terrifyingly powerful. Heretics of the Zhangji plane perish under the divine judgment. A cold look in his eyes, the projection of the radiant primary god Pratos pointed at the sky, and his golden eyes shimmered with indifference, as if he was stating a truth. In the blink of an eye, the sky was enveloped by endless light. Sink! Yangfeng's complexion changed dramatically and he barked. The Black Steel warship quickly deformed, and a large amount of steel extended and formed a huge steel shield. At the same time the warship dived rapidly. Countless mechanical shield troops rose into the air, activated powerful shields and raised their shields. After the more than 100,000 mechanical shield troops activated their shields, they quickly formed a 500-layered mechanical canopy that enveloped the Black Steel warship. A white beam of light 500 meters in diameter, filled with pure radiance, barreled towards the warship. Under the bombardment of the white beam, the shields of the mechanical shield troops collapsed in an instant, and the mechanical shield troops vaporized. After the fearsome white beam pierced through 500 layers of mechanical shield troops, its power finally declined to the extreme. When it slammed into the Black Steel warship's steel shield, it collapsed and dissipated. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Black Steel warship dived into the depths of the sea. It was blocked. That divine judgment was blocked. The radiant primary god Pratos' divine judgment was blocked. This is simply heaven-defying. When the legend-rank powerhouses saw this scene, their eyes shimmered with astonishment. Divine Judgment was a radiant divine spell that required the radiant primary god Pratos to consume a lot of divine force. Since the radiant primary god Pratos became the god king of the Xalia pantheon, his divine judgment was unstoppable. Many darkness gods were instantly turned into ashes by his divine judgment. Now that Yangfeng blocked the divine judgment, everyone was naturally shocked. Such a recruitment condition moved the hearts of the surrounding legend-rank powerhouses. Mighty radiant primary god Pratos, you don't have to persuade me. I just want to rely on my own strength to become a god. Besides, I admit that you are very strong. If your true body or a clone came here, you should be able to kill me. However, you are only a projection, and you can display less than 1/10,000,000th of your true body's strength. You don't have the strength to kill me. Yangfeng's calm analysis came from above the sea. A large number of space disruptors reverberated in various places and cast spatial interference spells, making it impossible for the radiant primary god Pratos to use spatial spells to appear in front of Yangfeng in a flash. If the radiant primary god Pratos' true body came here, then even if he only possessed pinnacle demigod rank strength, he could still display terrifying battle prowess with the help of the boundless divine force. It wouldn't be impossible for him to kill Yangfeng. However, once the radiant primary god Pratos' true body came to the Feisua plane, he would no longer be an invincible strong divine force rank god, but a demigod with battle prowess comparable to a god. While he was virtually invincible in the secular world, he also gave other existences a chance to kill him. Intermediate divine force rank gods and above basically wouldn't use their true bodies to walk in the secular world during the planar tide. They would only come to the secular world in the form of avatars or projections. The power that a projection could display in the secular world was limited. Depending on the object carrying the power that the projection could display and the duration of its existence were different. The power of this projection is enough to kill you. The eyes of the radiant primary god Pratos shimmered with frigid killing intent, and he pointed backward, and Planus behind him turned into a stream of light shooting into the distance. In a breath of time, Planus disappeared from everyone's eyes. The radiant primary god Prados blurred into motion, operated the law of light, turned into a pure ray of light, crossed a great distance, entered the sea in an instant, and appeared in front of the black steel warship. Along the way, more than 1 million starry skyrippers could not stop the radiant primary god Prados. They could only watch helplessly as he passed through countless companions and arrived in front of the black steel warship. Among the many strong divine force rank gods of the Fesua plane, the radiant primary god Prados was the fastest. The radiant primary god Prados waved his hand, and blades of light cut the black steel warship's protective wall into countless pieces, which entered the warship along with the seawater. Even though it was only a projection, the radiant primary god Prados, who didn't need a guardian, was still despairingly powerful. When they saw the radiant primary god Prados, Grace and the 4 passengers of suspicious origin immediately dodged aside. Arlette blocked in front of Yang Feng with the legendary spear in her hand, and her beautiful eyes flickered with scorching fighting spirit. "Stand down, Arlette." With a stern shout, Yang Feng stood up from the seat of honor, walked down, and gazed at the radiant primary god Prados with a dignified look in his eyes. Arlette replied respectfully and retreated to the side. "Yes, sir. Your Majesty." The eyes of the radiant primary god Prados shimmered with gold light, and he took a step forward and slowly pointed at Yang Feng with a finger. Boundless radiance instantly shone from that finger. In an instant, boundless radiance blossomed from that finger, as if it had evolved into a sun. Enveloped by the sun-like light, the surrounding space was completely locked. It seems that only this finger remained in the world. Ah! Help! The eyes of the demigod rank abyssal fiend Rick only glanced at the finger before exploding, and he let out an incomparably shrill scream. The finger, which contained the mysteries of the radiant divine domain, and gathered all the power of the projection of the radiant primary god Prados, seemed to have evolved into a sun and crushed towards Yang Feng. There was no way to avoid it. Even if it was a Moonlight Warlock rank powerhouse, they would die without any chance of survival. A feeling of despair welled up in Yang Feng's mind, as if he was powerless to struggle in the face of this peerless finger. He shouldn't struggle, he should just die in despair. Amazing! Can even affect my state of mind. How fearsome! As expected of a strong divine force rank god, who is even more powerful than infinity warlocks. The decadent state of mind only appeared for a moment before Yang Feng's life force revolved, and he recovered. Eyes surging with fighting spirit, he frantically extracted wisps of world force from the semi-plane in his sea of knowledge. With a roar like a frantically struggling transcendent god, he unleashed the secret method Great Primal Chaos Annihilation Fist recorded in the Primal Chaos imperishable body, and sent a punch barreling towards the sun. A chaotic aura, as if the world had just been created, suddenly rose in this space. A fist that seemed to contain endless mysteries stretched out from the world, and with a pressure that seemed to be able to split the world apart, it smashed into the sun. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shattering boom, the fist was directly crushed by the sun. The entire black steel warship shook violently. As if a broken ragdoll, Yang Feng was sent flying. With blood sputtering from every part of his body, he slammed into the black steel warship, smashed through the outer armor of the warship, and entered the warship's hull. Amid continuous blare, Yang Feng pierced through 13 layers of the black steel warship's armor before he was stopped by the 14th layer of the inner armor. I survived. Amidst horrified gazes, Yang Feng, covered in blood, staggered out of the cabin and showed an unruly smile to the radiant primary god Prados. Chapter 442. An expressionless face. The projection of the radiant primary god Prados collapsed and turned into countless motes of light that disappeared. After all, the power of a projection was limited. If the radiant primary god Prados clone had arrived, he could have killed Yang Feng with another blow. However, this projection could only seriously injure Yang Feng. This was the huge gap between a projection and a clone. Strange gazes focused on Yang Feng. The eyes of the 4 unknown passengers flickered with a queer glint, and traces of killing intent flashed past their eyes. When the projection of the radiant primary god Pratos pointed with all his strength, even if it was a feeble divine force rank god, they would be seriously injured or even killed. For a mere legend rank powerhouse like Yang Feng to be able to withstand a blow from the radiant primary god Pratos was simply incredible. He was definitely a great enemy of all powerhouses who wanted to snatch the apple of wisdom. Naturally, killing intent arose in people's hearts. Countless sea hunters swam out of the sea and formed frightening shoals around Yang Feng, staring covetously at the 4 unknown passengers. When the 4 unknown passengers saw the frightening shoals, their hearts sank, and they realized that they had missed the best opportunity. Yang Feng glanced at the 4 unknown passengers with an enigmatic smile, then took out a vial of precious elixir and downed it. Once he drank that bottle of incomparably precious potion, a warm current quickly flowed within Yang Feng's body, nourishing his injured body. Retreat! When the projection of the radiant primary god Pratos collapsed, Ansai's pretty face flickered, and she promptly ordered. With that, the Angel Legion turned around, forcibly opened a bloody path in the rear of the Starry Sky Rippers, and fled in a sorry state. The Starry Sky Rippers didn't pursue Ansai's Angel Legion, but surrounded Avalon's Brave Legion and attacked frantically. When Ansai led the Angel Legion to flee, the pressure on Avalon's Brave Legion increased several-fold. Among the Mechanical Legion, 1 or 2 Braves died at every moment. Avalon's face was ferocious. Like a wounded beast, he let out a shrill roar. Damn bitch! Every time the Einherjars in the Einherjar Legion were killed, their souls would be weakened. If they were killed too many times, they would be completely obliterated. Even in the Divine Kingdom, they would not be able to be reborn. On the Feisua Plain, unless their souls were imprisoned by a vicious spell, divine legions of gods would return to their divine countries after death, and then be reborn under the divine spells of the gods. But every time they were reborn, their souls would be weakened. Once they died too many times, they would completely collapse and disappear from this world. In addition, some artifacts and spells with soul attack characteristics could also kill the soldiers of the Divine Legion when they died in battle. Avalon was truly brave and fierce. His dragon spear was ever-changing. Wherever the spear shadow passed, countless Starry Sky Rippers were crushed. Not a single Starry Sky Ripper could withstand a single blow from him. But the Starry Sky Rippers were practically endless. The more Avalon killed, the more Starry Sky Rippers there were. All kinds of beams of light appeared and disappeared mysteriously, bombarding the Einherjars behind Avalon and killing the demigod-rank Einherjars with demigod-rank battle prowess. The Einherjars withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. A number of aircraft carrier fleets moved over, surrounding the Einherjars. It was obvious that they wanted to wipe out the Einherjars here. Seeing this, Ventox's face flickered and he shouted, "Stop, Ian! We can leave this place." Avalon was a Einherjar with feeble divine force rank battle prowess, and his fighting potential was enormous. Of the 5 divine legions, only the Sea Guards were left fighting Yang Feng's sea hunters in the sea. Although the Sea Guards were astonishingly powerful, but Yang Feng's sea hunters formed a shoal of more than 100,000 fish and rushed towards the Sea Guards wave after wave. The Sea God's guards had to gather together and jointly cast spells, forming huge whirlpools to barely resist the attacks of the sea hunters. From time to time, the huge whirlpools would be torn apart by the sea hunters. Whenever the sea hunters pounced, a sea guard would be pounced on and torn to pieces. It was only a matter of time before the sea guards were completely devoured by the sea hunters. The Merfolk army commanded by the Mermaid Empress Brihea clashed with the Merfolk army commanded by the Naga Empress. The sea churned and countless Merfolk corpses rose to the surface. Yang Feng glanced at the holographic projection and quickly made a judgment. In about 2 hours, the sea guards will be wiped out. The passengers aboard the Black Steel warship stared at the holographic projection, with an enigmatic gleam in their eyes. When the 5 divine legions arrived in this part of the sea, they were still defeated by Yang Feng and suffered heavy casualties. This kind of fighting strength was far beyond the imagination of the 4 passengers of unknown origin. Suddenly, a golden light rose from the rear of the Black Steel warship. The golden light shone on the sea behind the Black Steel warship, forming a beautiful golden territorial region. Yang Feng was taken aback. Now, the timing of the Golden Strait's appearance was far beyond Yang Feng's expectations. According to the information provided by Faldina, the Golden Strait shouldn't open until a few days later. Yang Feng's heart shook slightly. Fortunately, I waited here a long time in advance. Otherwise, I would have missed this great opportunity. The black steel warship quickly floated to the surface of the sea, and then flew towards the Golden Strait. The engines of countless starry sky rippers rumbled as they flew towards the Golden Strait. As soon as they entered the Golden Strait, starry sky rippers, space disruptors, and other battle robots flying in the sky fell from the sky due to a mysterious force, and sank to the bottom of the sea. When Yang Feng saw this scene, his heart shook slightly. The Golden Strait's no-fly domain is really extraordinary. The Time Lord set up many formidable restrictions in the Golden Strait. Even strong divine force rank gods would be weakened to the Great Warlock rank after entering this domain. No existence could fly in the sky. Because of this, the four great empires had sent many powerful fleets to this region of the sea. Golden Strait. The Golden Strait has appeared. When the powerhouses surrounding the aircraft carrier fleet saw the Golden Territorial Sea region, their eyes flashed with excitement. Their figures flashed and they frantically flew in the direction of the Golden Territorial Sea region. Chapter 443. The densely packed starry sky rippers and space disruptors descended from the sky and clashed with the legend-rank powerhouses, slaughtering them in a frenzy. The transcendent projections behind the legend-rank powerhouses were forced out one by one, and then crushed under the siege of the endless battle robots. The entire region of the sea fell into a state of chaos and fierce battles. Some legend-rank powerhouses without a backer could only stand on the periphery of the sea and watch the countless powerhouses fighting inside. Grace glanced at the sea shrouded in golden light, her beautiful eyes sparkled, and she said with a charming smile, "In the past, the Golden Strait was the place where the fighting was the most intense. I didn't expect it to be so peaceful this time. It's all thanks to you, Your Majesty Ian." The gazes of Cecilia and the other three passengers with extraordinary backgrounds focused on Yang Feng, and an enigmatic gleam flashed past their eyes. In the past, every time the apple of wisdom ripened, it would attract countless powerhouses, and they would fight endlessly from the sea outside to the Golden Strait, and then from the Golden Strait to the Golden Plain. This time Yang Feng released countless battle robots and forcibly blocked the countless powerhouses outside the Golden Strait. This accomplishment was simply heaven-defying. The Feisua Plain's apple of wisdom was destined to fall into the hands of human warlocks when the 8 warlock dynasties awed the world. The rest of the time, the apple of wisdom was very unpredictable. But this time, the apple of wisdom was destined to fall into the hands of these few people. The speed of the black steel warship was pushed to the limit. After sailing in the Golden Territorial region for 3 hours, a golden plain shrouded in golden light appeared in front of everyone. The flowers, plants, and trees were shrouded in a layer of golden light, exuding a sacred aura. In the center of the golden plain, there was a 9,000-meter-tall golden apple tree towering into the sky and emitting bright light. This golden apple tree was recognized as the most precious treasure of the Feisua Plain, the apple of wisdom tree. Every 30,000 years, the apple of wisdom tree would bear an apple of wisdom. Those who got an apple of wisdom, as long as they didn't die, would at least become weak divine force rank gods. There are even warlock emperor rank powerhouses among them. Everyone on the black steel warship looked at the apple of wisdom tree with a burning look in their eyes. When the black steel warship was 20 kilometers away from the Golden Plain, one after another, bladed troops, space disruptors and other primary battle robots climbed onto the deck from all directions. The 20 steel fleets guarding the black steel warship quickly surrounded them, forming a huge steel warship island. Seeing this scene, Grace, Cecilia, and the other 3 unknown passengers frowned and stared at Yang Feng, traces of an unclear premonition welling up inside them. The passenger shrouded in darkness said in a hoarse voice, "Ian, what do you mean by this?" Yang Feng smiled faintly and looked at Grace and the 3 unknown passengers, saying, "I'm determined to get the apple of wisdom. I won't give you any chance to compete with me for the apple of wisdom." The agreement between you and me is only limited to letting you enter the Golden Strait, but it doesn't include setting foot on the Golden Plain. The powerhouse covered in a cyan cloak said coldly, "We have given you 30,000 divine force crystals, yet you're not even willing to give us a chance to compete fairly?" Yang Feng said lightly, "Although the effect of the gold grasses and gold flowers on the Golden Plain can't compare to that of the Apple of Wisdom, but they are still first-rate treasures that can increase wisdom. You can pick them one by one. After I pick the Apple of Wisdom, I'll let you go ashore and pick some flowers and plants." Actually, there's another way. That is to capture you, use you as a hostage, and pick the Apple of Wisdom. The eyes of the passenger shrouded in darkness shimmered fiercely, and endless shadows gushed out of him in a flash and formed a queer shadow divine domain that enveloped everyone on the Black Steel warship. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with vigilance. "This is the shadow divine domain." "That's right, Ian. I am the Shadow Prince Mecha of the Darkness Gods. And this is my shadow divine domain. I know that you're very strong, but in front of my true body, you who haven't comprehended a law can't withstand a single blow." A strange and ethereal voice came from all directions and poured directly into Yang Feng's mind, making it impossible to distinguish the source of the voice. The Shadow Prince Mecha's shadow divine domain was 100 times stronger than Zhong Sunan's darkness domain, giving off a strange feeling of space-time distortion, chaos, and annihilation of the senses. This was the power of a divine domain. Interesting. Shadow divine domain. Let me break it. Yang Feng's eyes surged with fighting spirit, and vast spatial fluctuations suddenly erupted and formed a spatial domain that forcibly carved out an area with a radius of 2 meters from the shadow divine domain. This was already his limit. A divine domain was a terrifying existence that evolved from a domain that only gods could comprehend. Although the Shadow Prince Mecha was only a feeble divine force rank god, but his true body was here. Even if he only used great warlock rank power, his comprehension of laws was far superior to Yang Feng's. Spatial domain. Amazing, Ian, to be able to comprehend the most difficult to comprehend law of space. That's really amazing. Unfortunately, you're just an ordinary person after all. In front of gods, all mortals are as lowly as ants. A sigh sounded and 10 shadow assassins with indistinct faces emerged from the shadow domain. Holding a dark blue dagger in their hands, they suddenly erupted and stabbed at Yang Feng from 10 different directions. 9 fakes and 1 real. No, they're all fake, but they're all real. When Yang Feng saw the 10 shadow assassins walk out of the shadows, his heart shook slightly. He took a step forward, unleashed the demonic fighting fist art, and punched the 10 shadow assassins 10 times in a row, smashing them to pieces. Ian, you like to use countless golems to consume the enemy's strength and besiege them. I like it the same way. Try your best to kill all my shadow assassins. An ethereal and eerie laughter reverberated in the area. The shadow divine domain squirmed, and 1 shadow assassin after another shot out of the shadow divine domain. As if they had a life of their own, the shadow assassins stabbed at Yang Feng from tricky corners. A beautiful goddess with long blonde hair, a fiery and sexy figure, twin peaks nearly bursting out of her clothes, and a mixture of innocence, maturity, charm, innocence, and other temperaments, suddenly smiled, clapped her hands and said full of joy, "That son of a bitch Mecha is finally dead. Sister Fex's death was finally avenged. He didn't know who killed that bastard. I really have to thank him." Sensing the changes in the secular world, the gods opened their eyes and used the power of their godhead to search for the truth of Mecha's death. The death of the Shadow Prince Mecha and the changes that occurred to the Shadow Church shook the gods of the Feisua Plain. A sense of crisis welled up in the hearts of the gods of the Feisua Plain. On the Black Steel warship, after Yang Feng killed the Shadow Prince Mecha with a punch, he beckoned with his hand, and the godhead of the Shadow Prince entered his hand. He glanced around. He saw that only Faldina and Cecilia were left on the Black Steel warship. Grace had already dived into the golden territorial waters. The expert in a cyan cloak was standing on a small tortoiseshell ship, while the beautiful woman with long purple hair and a sexy figure was standing on a leaf boat formed from a huge leaf, and they swam towards the golden plain. Yang Feng glanced at the three people, and his eyes shimmered with ridicule. Sure enough, they all have great backgrounds. For Grace and the other two to be able to break free from Mecha's shadow divine domain, they must have some special treasures, or they themselves were stronger than Mecha. The apple of wisdom even alarmed bigwigs like the radiant primary god and the beast god, who were at the pinnacle of the Feisua plane, didn't hesitate to send divine legions and projections to seize the apple of wisdom. It was not unusual for a god like Mecha to personally take action, although gods were far more powerful than other existences, but it was extremely difficult for them to advance to a higher rank. Unless they could obtain the godhead of a higher rank god, it was extremely difficult to advance to a higher rank god by relying on their own comprehension of laws. Only a divine object like the apple of wisdom could increase the wisdom of god-rank powerhouses and allow them to advance further. Yang Feng ordered coldly, "Destroy their ships." At this moment, the sexy woman with long purple hair turned her head slightly, showed Yang Feng a charming smile, and closed her lily-white hands. With the black steel warship as the center, countless transparent threads sliced in all directions. Containing the law of sharpness and divine force of darkness, the transparent threads were comparable to god armaments in terms of sharpness. The black steel warship and the surrounding steel fleets formed warship islands crumbled and turned into countless steel chunks that slowly sank into the sea. Yang Feng frowned slightly, then his figure flickered, and he stepped on the steel chunks, leaped towards another warship, and said solemnly, "Silk, divine force of darkness. You're the queen of spiders, Lolth." In the vast universe, among the 36 primary material planes, there were many powerhouses who could use silk like god armaments. However, on the Feisua plane, there was only one person who could use silk and divine force of darkness to this extent, and that was the intermediate divine force rank queen of spiders, Lolth. The queen of spiders Lolth threw Yang Feng a coquettish look and said with an unrestrained smile, "That's right, handsome. Give me the apple of wisdom, will you? As long as you're willing to give me the apple of wisdom, I'll invite you to my divine country to have some fun. You can play with any of the goddesses of the dark elven divine system you want. I can also help you catch them and let you have some fun with them." Starting from the queen of spiders Lolth, there were no chaste women in the dark elven divine system. Every one of them was a licentious and licentious goddess. Many darkness gods had very close relationships with the goddesses of the dark elven divine system. Yang Feng uttered with a faint smile, even if the entire dark elven divine system were added up, it still wouldn't compare to an apple of wisdom. The large number of remaining warships shone brightly, and a rain of light shot towards the queen of spiders Lolth and the powerhouse in a cyan cloak. Faced with the overwhelming rain of light, the pretty face of the queen of spiders Lolth changed. Formidable divine force gushed out of her, and countless transparent threads invisible to the naked eye suddenly appeared, condensed in front of her, and formed a shield containing divine force of darkness. The complexion of the powerhouse in the cyan cloak changed dramatically. Vast demonic chi gushed out of him in a flash, and he revealed his figure. He turned into a 3-meter-tall archdevil with a green face and fangs, taut muscles and covered in black scales. As soon as the ancient devil appeared, a terrifying demonic aura comparable to that of a god's emanated from its body. He silently recited an incantation and spread the fingers of a hand, and skulls suddenly appeared and formed a huge shield of bones in front of him. When the rain of light slammed into the shield of the goddess of spiders Lolth, the shield containing divine force of darkness immediately crumbled and shattered. Even though the goddess of spiders Lolth was an intermediate divine force rank god, but with her great warlock rank strength, it was already extremely heaven-defying for her to not be blasted into dregs by the railgun beams and the positron beams. The pretty face of the goddess of spiders Lolth flickered, and she barked, "No! We can't stop him. Let's join hands and kill that kid. Only by killing him will we have a glimmer of hope to reach the golden plain." The goddess of spiders Lolth waved her lily-white hand, and spider threads suddenly ejected and connected to the warship on which Yang Feng and the archdevil were on. Without demur, the archdevil blurred into motion, jumped onto the web-like spider threads, turned into 36 afterimages, surged with demonic chi and rushed towards Yang Feng. The goddess of spiders Lolth also jumped lightly, landed on the spider threads like a speck of dust, and shot towards Yang Feng at a strange pace. Chapter 445. The densely packed light beams shot towards the ancient devil and goddess Lolth like raindrops, but they only hit their afterimages. They didn't even graze their actual bodies. Most of the steel fleets have been left outside by Yang Feng to snipe the many powerhouses who want to enter the Golden Strait. The firepower of the remaining steel fleets is no longer enough to block the movements of the ancient devil and goddess Lolth. In particular, the Starry Sky Rippers, affected by the airspace restriction array, have their fighting strength greatly reduced, unable to intercept the ancient devil and goddess Lolth. When the ancient devil and goddess Lolth moved, the small boat they were riding was blasted apart by the artillery fire of countless warships, and then turned into countless fragments that sank into the sea. The ancient devil and the goddess Lolth were forced to turn around and go hunt Yang Feng. If they don't kill Yang Feng, then even if they are proficient in countless secret methods and have illusory movements, the warships they are riding will be blasted to pieces. The ancient devil silently recited an incantation, pointed at the sky, and unleashed one of the strongest secret methods of the ancient devils, the devil's eye. A vast demonic chi surged, and an ancient devil projection, whose true body exuded a desolate and archaic aura, had two ox-like horns on its head, one eye gouged out, and the other two horns broken in half, slowly opened its remaining eye and looked indifferently at Yang Feng. When Yang Feng saw the devil projection, his complexion changed dramatically, and he exclaimed, "That's Gu of the 6 heavenly devils." Among the ancient devils there have been 6 sky devils. Each sky devil was a formidable existence that once contended against warlock emperors. Gu of the 6 heavenly devils even once defeated the Taboo Lord, who has yet to ascend to the Warlock Emperor rank. After the Taboo Lord ascended to the Warlock Emperor rank, he killed Gu with his supreme might. Gu of the 6 heavenly devils was a terrifying existence who could fight against the Taboo Lord. Even though he was killed by the Taboo Lord, but he still left behind a remnant soul wandering the world. After countless years, the ancient devils were able to use secret techniques to draw out a trace of Ji's remnant soul, forming one of the most powerful secret techniques of the ancient devil race, the devil's eye. The projection of the sky devil Gu slowly opened one eye, and vast demonic light shot towards Yang Feng. Goddess Lolth silently chanted an incantation and pointed towards the sky. The shadow of a divine kingdom with a beautiful environment and beautiful and unrestrained female dark elves could be seen everywhere suddenly appeared. A resplendent black radiance shone on Goddess Lolth. Goddess Lolth's body swelled, and her aura rose steadily. She transformed into a 20-meter-tall half-human half-spider monster. Her upper body was that of a beautiful woman, and her lower body was that of a huge spider. Her back was covered with sharp spear-like claws. Lolth was also known as the Queen of Spiders Lolth. It was said that he was the first child of the mother of Chaos Spider. The primal Chaos Spider mother was the first generation of creatures born when the universe was created. From the day she was born, she possessed a terrifying power that surpassed the fiend gods. According to legend, she was a terrifying existence that could rival, or even surpass human warlock emperors. The primal Chaos Spider Mother gave birth to a total of 108 children. One of them was the goddess Lolth, also known as the Queen of Spiders Lolth. After the Queen of Spiders Lolth devoured several of her sisters, she escaped from the primal Chaos Spider Mother, and then wandered the many planes of the universe for countless years. Then she deceived the feelings of a high elven monarch, and used an evil secret method to pollute the bloodline of the high elves under the monarch's rule, turning them into dark elves. High elves had always been very proud, and they attached far more importance to the purity of their bloodline than other races. The dark elves whose bloodline was polluted by the evil secret method were no longer regarded as their compatriots, and were hunted down with all their might. As a result, the dark elves had no choice but to rely on the Queen of Spiders Lolth, flee to the Feisua Plain with her, and worship her as the guardian of their race. Transforming into a primal chaos spider was one of the strongest secret methods the Queen of Spiders Lolth grasped. As soon as she transformed into a half-human half-spider primal chaos spider, The Queen of Spiders Loltha's avatar opened her mouth and sprayed green venom containing the law of poison towards Yang Feng. After transforming into a primal chaos spider, the venom sprayed by the Queen of Spiders Lolth was the most troublesome primal chaos spider venom. When the primal chaos spider venom sprayed by the Queen of Spiders Lolth with great warlock rank power, even a glorious dawn warlock would be poisoned. If they didn't deal with it properly, then they would be eroded by the primal chaos spider venom for hundreds or even 1,000 years. If the Queen of Spiders Loltha's true body was eroded by the primal chaos spider venom she sprayed with intermediate divine force rank power, then even a mighty divine force rank warlock monarch powerhouse would be in unbearable pain, and might even be in danger of dying. Amazing, as expected of a transcendent rank powerhouse. If your true bodies had attacked with their strongest power, then I might not have been able to withstand a blow from you. However, with great warlock rank power, you're too naive to think that you can kill me. Eyes flashing with scorching fighting spirit, Yang Feng smiled faintly and sent out a primal chaos annihilation fist. The law of power surged, and wisps of world force extracted from the semi-plane barrel towards the demonic light emitted by the devil's eye in the sky. Boom! The demonic light emitted by the devil's eye was smashed by Yang Feng's fist, and the fearsome power dispersed in all directions. The several warships around Yang Feng were sent flying by the fearsome power. After smashing the demonic light emitted by the devil's eye, Yang Feng pointed with a finger, and the spatial domain erupted. Suddenly, a spatial maze appeared and devoured the venom sprayed by the Queen of Spiders Lolth. The venom sprayed by the Queen of Spiders Lolth contained the law of poison. When Yang Feng's spatial domain came into contact with the venom, it collapsed inch by inch and withered. Yang Feng took out the god armament Holy Flame Sword and slashed at the venom with a flame containing the law of fire. Sizzle! Along with a series of crisp sounds, the venom sprayed by the Queen of Spiders Lolth was burned to ashes and purified. If he wanted to advance to a glorious dawn warlock in the future, he would have to spend 1,000 times more time and energy, as well as countless rare treasures, to make up for his weak foundation. Yang Feng grabbed the god armament Holy Flame Sword and glanced at it. With a thought, a berserk fire domain spread from him in a flash and extended ahead. Yang Feng looked at the fire domain with a smile of excitement in his eyes. Amazing! This apple of wisdom is really amazing! Prior to this, Yang Feng had never comprehended the law of fire. He just sensed the law of fire contained in the god armament Holy Flame Sword, and then grasped the mysteries of the law of fire. This was the terror of the apple of wisdom. Even if an ordinary person with ordinary aptitude obtained the apple of wisdom, they would be able to soar into the sky in a single bound and become a peerless genius with extraordinary comprehension, far surpassing countless powerhouses. Suppressing his excitement, Yang Feng began to carefully pick the apple leaves around the apple of wisdom. The apple leaves around the apple of wisdom also had the miraculous effect of enlightening people and greatly increasing their wisdom. Each apple leaf of wisdom was very precious in the outside world. Even bright world warlocks would pay a high price to buy them. After Yang Feng plucked 100 apple leaves, a golden light shone on him and teleported him 100 meters away from the apple of wisdom tree. Yang Feng took a deep look at the apple of wisdom tree, then smiled, turned around and walked back to his fleet. Congratulations, Your Majesty, for obtaining the apple of wisdom. You've soared into the sky in a single bound, and there's hope for you to become a god in the future. As soon as Yang Feng returned to the fleet, Cecilia greeted him with a smile on her face. A complicated look in her eyes, Grace squeezed out a smile and said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty, for obtaining the apple of wisdom. You've soared into the sky in the future." Yang Feng obtained the apple of wisdom, which meant that as long as he didn't die, he would definitely promote to a god in the future. Besides, his ultimate achievement would surpass that of a weak divine force rank god. From now on, the gap between Yang Feng and Cecilia and the others would only widen, and his weight in the eyes of the gods would be different. From the moment he ate the apple of wisdom, Yang Feng was already a quasi-god, and his status was completely different from that of legend-ranked geniuses like Grace and Cecilia. Cecilia's beautiful eyes flashed with a pleading look, and she uttered, "Your Majesty, I want to buy 10 apple of wisdom leaves for the price of 1,000 divine force crystals. Please sell them to me." Although the effect of the 100 apple of wisdom leaves couldn't compare to that of the apple of wisdom, but they were still peerless treasures that could only be produced once every 30,000 years. They were equally precious and of extraordinary value. Grace's beautiful eyes flashed with expectation as she looked at Yang Feng. Yang Feng said resolutely, "That won't do, I won't sell a single one of those leaves. However, I can let you go to the Golden Plain and pick some flowers and plants." Although the apple of wisdom leaves were no longer effective for Yang Feng, but he could give them to his women, friends, and subordinates. He couldn't sell such treasures that could only be encountered by chance. Cecilia's beautiful eyes flickered, and she gritted her teeth and said, "If I am willing to be your mount and serve you for 1,000 years in exchange, will you give me an apple of wisdom leaf?" Dragon Knight. A term popped up in Yang Feng's mind at once. He took a deep look at the peerlessly beautiful dragon girl Cecilia, brimming with a heroic temperament, and said, "Yes, but are you sure you have thought it through?" You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.